Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President, Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is Recap Thursdays. We have made it through another week of politics in the world and here at home. Welcome to the stream, Apolitical. I don't know, I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye. Yesterday, we had to do some emergency coverage over Charlie Kirk. Because, as we all know, he has been shot and gunned down while at a university event, a tour of sorts, where he was espousing more of his quintessential, hateful, bigoted rhetoric. The irony, though, is that he got shot right in the middle of giving an answer to the question of how many active shootings have occurred this year alone. +1. Actually, +2, because technically, that very same day, there was one in Colorado. So, today, we are going to be covering more of that. We're going to be covering some of the foreign affairs that we didn't quite get to yesterday, like Bolsonaro's case trial continuing to unfold. We'll probably touch base a bit more on Nepal and a few other things that are happening, such as Mike Johnson having to walk back the claim that Trump was an FBI informant. We're also going to toss in a little bit of alien conspiracy theory, but we definitely will have to cover some of the conspiracy theory surrounding Charlie Kirk's murder. It is fair to say that he was murdered. It may very well turn out that this was a false flag, though, and we will certainly be getting into that. Welcome to the stream, Anna. Looks like you're getting beaten to being the first one in the chat. You know, you gotta step it up. I watched the stream back. You were kind of happy about it, it seemed. I won't say that I'm happy that he's dead. I definitely understand why he was shot. It's also pretty fitting that Ben Shapiro canceled his tours as well, because now he's afraid that he's going to be a target next. Because when push comes to shove, all of these pundits give only one thing, and that's themselves. They only care about their own platform and their own visibility, but they don't actually stand for these things. I'm pretty certain Charlie Kirk would have preferred to renounce all of his rhetoric rather than be gunned down and drowning in his own blood. Ben Shapiro is canceling his appearances. So I think what we'll see is if there are more of these attacks, we might see a shifting narrative amongst these right-wing commentators, because fundamentally they're cowards. And I think that cowardice will start impacting a significant change long before the debate or having an exchange of ideas in the marketplace of ideas, or whatever they like to say. A healthy debate in the marketplace of ideas is what I think they love to espouse. But the reality is, and as I said yesterday, and you know what, we'll just dive into the expose. Why not? With broadly speaking about right-wing commentators, especially the ones that predominantly focus on being on the internet, their goal is less to be informative and less to be correct and less to be ideologically superior and more about spreading their message. And what is the easiest message to spread in all of human history? Safety, security, nationalism, and banding together against an other organization or group. And when you multiply that by the internet, it's very easy to see how this can easily devolve into what we are seeing today. Zealotry, Christian fascism, regular fascism, and then, of course, bigotry and xenophobia. When you can create a messaging pipeline that can reach hundreds of thousands, if not tens of millions of people in a single setting, you can dramatically increase the range and impact of your values and your messaging. Christianity took hundreds of years to spread. It took thousands of years to become dominant, and it's only half the world's population. Same thing with Islam. Or, I'm sorry, 2 billion people are Christian Catholic, and 2 billion people are Islamic. So, My point here is that spread took generations and thousands of years, hundreds of years, technically. So when you have the internet and you can maximize reach and acceleration of the message to the broadest possible audience at once by using the same methodology that has been used for centuries, which is to stir malcontent and discontent against an other, while espousing strength and traditional values and growth and togetherness and so on and so forth, it's no shock whatsoever that right-wing extremism is on the rise all over the world, because it is the most tried and true messaging in all of human history. The problem is when you spread fear, hate, bigotry, and xenophobia, it is going to come with an equal and opposite amount of backlash. It's Isaac Newton's second law of motion. Every force has an equal and opposite force impacted against it, right? That's why an object in motion will stay in motion until acted upon, right? That's the reason why. If you have Nazis spewing Nazi filth, you're going to have people resisting the Nazi filth. But colloquially, and alternatively, one could argue that if you have peace and love utopia, it's going to give rise to fascistic and derogatory ideology as well, which is kind of the other side of the problem. We haven't evolved past being influenced by fascism, nor have we evolved to the point where peace is something that we can truly embrace without others wanting to disrupt it for their own personal gain. We haven't gotten past this dichotomy. Hence why the Charlie Kirks, the Ben Shapiros, the Andrew Tates, the Donald Trumps, the J.D. Vances are as prolific as they are, because they use messaging and, for lack of a better word, charisma and appeal to reach these vulnerable masses. Now, in their case, it's predominantly insecure white men who find themselves not being the center of the universe because, women and minorities now have rights, and they've been exercising them for at least one generation. And white conservatives cannot handle that, which is why white supremacy and white nationalism, wrapped in the flag and wrapped in the cross, is making a resurgence. Religious fascism, religious conservatism has always been the cornerstone of manipulation and control. Whether we're talking about ancient Rome, ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Greece, whether we're talking about ancient Europe, Middle Ages Europe, whether we're talking about modern society, China, Russia, Korea, Africa, South America, no matter what country, what region of the world, religion and power almost always mix, because power cares about control, and religion is the most easy way to control the masses, because the masses believe in what religion is selling, which is a method of living in a way that'll get you, a better afterlife. Selling the afterlife while suffering in the real life. Creating a living hell for the masses in the present that only the few elite can enjoy, so that in the afterlife, should there even be one, the masses can enjoy euphoria and utopia then, and then the rich will just get to carry on as they always have. That has always been the dynamic, all right? So, I wasn't happy about Charlie dying, per se. I thought it was more of an inevitability that he would be held accountable. If anything, I'm upset that my administration in the 48th presidency, were not the ones to do the accountability. I would have still executed him for the aforementioned perpetuation of propaganda, destabilizing society, pushing violent ritual and rhetoric, radicalizing the youth in this country, and spreading misinformation, hate, xenophobia, and bigotry across the masses. That is very much so a danger to society. So I would have charged him accordingly, and all of that combined would have been capital. I'm so sorry. I feel like, I guess I had something in my teeth and it just wasn't coming out. I don't even think I put this in my mouth yet, so it wasn't the cigar. Sorry, folks. I'm like a dog with peanut butter on the roof. So, I hope that answers that. Now, we will get into conspiracy. Let me catch up on chat here. I thought leftists were pussies. Why are they scared? Oh, yeah. The right constantly calling the left weak and cowardly. But then the second anything that happens against them or when they lose, they blame the left as being the intolerant left and violent and aggressive and so on and so forth. You said like it was sad he died because he could not have been persecuted. Oh, yeah. Yep. Hey, that's right. I hated Charlie Kirk with a passion, and I'm not sad he died. Might be good even for America. I just don't think he did anything to deserve the death penalty. Maybe a decade in jail or so, but I can see why people would think it's deserved that Charlie died. No, again, what is it? It's instigating unrest, right? What is it? Civil unrest? Promoting civil unrest? That is the crime. Now, is that necessarily a capital crime? No, it isn't. But when you add it into the propaganda, the misinformation, the aiding and abetting and supporting genocide aspects of things, when it becomes crimes against humanity and or war crimes, he might not be physically pulling the trigger, but he is promoting it and trying to whitewash the impact. Goebbels got the noose just as much as Himmler and, Hitler would have if he had survived. You see what I'm saying? The main Nazis who weren't pulling the trigger still got because of their involvement in the genocide, right? So Charlie Kirk is 100% part of the problem. He is absolutely deeply involved in the genocide, in the racial targeting, the profiling, and I would say the beginning stages of a genocide against Latino and Afro-Americans in our country. I would say the fact that we are beginning to round up people, broadly speaking, and sending them to camps or sending them out of the country without due process is one of the beginning stages of ethnic cleansing, genocide, and similar crimes. And Charlie Kirk was promoting these activities and celebrating them on his platform, exercising his free speech. So no, fundamentally his crimes were in fact capital. And then Anna, I think, covers that up some more. Charlie Kirk was the Goebbels to Trump's Hitler. Trump still has a couple of Goebbels left, but Charlie was the one who spoke to Gen Z and got Trump a big chunk of the Gen Z vote. We must also be real. We must be honest with the population. Having an armed citizenry comes with a price, and that is part of liberty. We need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. Charlie Kirk after a school shooting in which 3 children died, which is, again, perpetuating violence, especially unnecessary violence and unnecessary death. We can still have a highly regulated gun culture, a highly mature gun culture in the United States of America, and still prevent school shootings, right? You can still have your cake and eat it too. We don't need to have school shootings in order for the Second Amendment to exist. And having access to guns isn't the problem. It's the regulation of those firearms, the accessibility, and the fact that we don't have mental health, that we don't have mental health care or the ability for these people to seek the mental health care or to even be placed into mental health care facilities so that they can actually gain the credibility, the credible accessibility to the firearms in the first place. So, I hope that answers that. Now, since we're doing the expose instead of hitting the videos right away, the Charlie Kirk, the conspiracy is beginning to imply 2 things. One, that this was a false flag, because almost immediately after his death was declared, you had this administration lambasting minorities, illegals, left-wing groups, the Democrats. You had members of the administration calling for the dismantling of all left-leaning organizations, news outlets, independent news networks, and the Democratic Party. You had the entire right-wing media punditry calling for violence and death against Democrats and the left-wing, whatever. You had Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, give condolences to Charlie Kirk and talk about his legacy and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians. And you also have Gavin Newsom talking about carrying on Charlie's legacy as well. Again, Gavin Newsom being the governor of New York, a Democrat, talking about how Charlie Kirk espoused debate and the open market of ideas when that's not even remotely true. Taking it further on the conspiracy side, you have a marksman who was capable of making a shot over 200 yards into a crowd and hitting the neck, which I can tell you from the fact that I was in the military myself, had to shoot a rifle and had to qualify, that making a shot at 200 yards is not easy under the best of circumstances, especially without training. Secondly, if you can make that shot, because you have the skills, the training, the ability, what have you, the equipment, you're not gonna abandon the rifle in the woods and then leave the most inciting evidence behind, which is engraved bullets talking about transgender issues and anti-fascism. Like, you're also not going to engrave bullets, because any alteration to the jacket of the bullet would either prevent the rifling of the weapon from functioning as intended, or it would cause the trajectory to go off kilter regardless, even if the rifling itself wasn't impacted. So you would never engrave the rifling of a bullet. The jacketing of a bullet. You would just never do that. And then again, the conflicting information that the FBI versus the punditry versus the news versus some guy in a shirt versus a full tactically kitted out person that took the shot. So there are so many conflicting stories, so many stories ready to denounce left-leaning proponents, and then reinforce the rhetoric that it's transgender folk that are the threat, which is a call for a disarmament of the civilian population, which is counter to the free exercise of the Second Amendment. When you add all of these things together, and in such rapid back-to-back issuance, it just begins to reek of false flag. Now remember, a false flag isn't an event that didn't happen or that was fake or that was manipulated. A false flag is an event that occurs to distract from or cover up a bigger act or event that is meant to be distracted from. Meaning the Epstein files, meaning the Trump investigations, meaning the military involvement in Venezuela, the genocide in Palestine, right? Any number of things. The fact that they're trying to deploy the National Guard into various cities across America, right? The continuing increase and uptick of quotas for ICE agents, right? This death, this murder, this killing could have easily been a false flag distraction so that the rest of these things can be pushed through. So, I am leaning towards that element, that the Charlie Kirk death and the transgender shooter prior to that are all false flags to be distractions for the ultimate goal of this administration, which is to implement a martial law police state and eliminate elections and eliminate the power of the people to organize. That is what I firmly believe, based on the evidence of facts, of events as they are. Okay, but do you think all Zionists deserve to be executed, or only the prominent ones? I'm really not sure what to think of how to handle people who boost violence so much with their ideas. I don't like solving things with violence. I always try to think of another way. That was good aim. So the primary question is, do I think all Nazis deserve to be executed? I'm sorry, all Zionists. Yes. 100%. 100%. 100%, yes. I think every member of ICE should be executed as well, and every member of this administration. They are too dangerous to be left alive. They have proven and shown their true colors, their true animosity towards democracy and our Constitution, the well-being of citizens, and the fact that they do not believe that all human beings are equal and should be treated equally. So I 100% believe that Zionists and especially the leadership should be executed. Now, I also said ICE agents and so on and so forth. I did not, however, say MAGA. Now, did I? Now, MAGA hasn't evolved to the point of Zionism, right? Because generally speaking, MAGA are just regular people who either A, didn't vote for Biden / Kamala, or B, did vote for Trump, but because they wanted some sort of change to happen, even if it wasn't great change. Now, the MAGA who are perpetuating and espousing the same ideology as Trump, as Charlie, as all of these individuals that are causing harm to society and endangering people, such as the Georgia candidate who called ICE on the Hyundai plant and could have dramatically impacted the lives of those individuals through causing them death or harm. People like that, I would say that also is justified for the death penalty, because again, you would have gladly pulled the trigger on them. It's like calling the cops on black people, hoping that the cops kill them or hurt them. That's racially motivated crimes. Like that's a hate crime. And although hate crimes themselves aren't necessarily capital offenses, I genuinely think they should be. And I do cover this in my policy platform. I do think there is a level in which, though, people can be recovered. But that, I think, once you cross that line of actively seeking harm and damage to be done, I find it very difficult to believe that there is reformation possible. Now, that's my personal beliefs. Me personally, Samuel Ronan, granted, as president, would believe such a thing. But I would be willing to have the debate and the discussion that perhaps it should only be the leadership that gets executed. It should only be the agents who carried out the orders that should be executed. It should only be the bad actors that should be executed. I'm more than happy to just make examples of a few rather than all. But at the same time, I'm not opposed to making examples out of everyone who participated. I disagree with that. I think people can have stages of having really flawed ideas and recover from them, which is fine. Again, I'm open to the discussion. Personally, I am open to it. But I am not... To answer your direct question, Zionists do not deserve to see the light of day, just like Nazis don't. And that's whether you were a card-carrying member of the Nazi Party or goose-stepping and supporting it right up until you were discovered that it was evil and wrong. Zionists, no. And the Zionist polling in Israel still has an overwhelming majority of the population of Israel supporting the genocide, not just the genocide, but the full erasure of Palestine from the map, and their people and their culture, their very bloodlines, their entire genome. An overwhelming majority of Israelis still believe that. So, do I believe those people should be able to flee Israel after it is dismantled and reintegrate to their original countries? Absolutely fucking not. I think they should all be put to death. Because they have proven consistently for 2 years that they are inhuman, that they do not care about the well-being and livelihood of other human beings. They do not care about the life, the culture, the community of other beings. They don't care about society. They do not care about morality. They care about their own selves and their justification of existence. And that is, to me, that's not something that can be reformed. I think it might be a very broken ideology that scrambled their brains, but I would not feel comfortable with having them reintegrated into my society. So any Americans that are living in Israel that are trying to flee back to America to escape their criminal activities, their aiding and abetting of the Israeli genocide, their occupation of Palestinian homes, their colonization and forced removal of Palestinians from their homes, and then they try and come back here, they will be captured at their port of entry, sentenced, or tried, sentenced, and then summarily executed. If Charlie Kirk was part of the administration, my opinion would be totally different, even though he plays an active role. See, that's the thing. He does play an active role. Even if it is unofficial, it's still active. Therefore, he would be part of that administration. And an official or unofficial advisor, if his influences policy or decision-making of this administration, that would make him an active part. It was obvious how directly connected to the White House Charlie Kirk was when he started talking about releasing the Epstein files. Then Trump got angry, and the next day, Charlie changed his tune. Right. So, I'm not trying to alienate you, apolitical. I'm just giving you my honest opinion as someone who would have to lead a nation and heal a very, very deeply divided nation. I think there is room for growth and for healing in this country. But I think that healing has a ceiling of who can actually come back from their crimes against humanity and those who cannot. And I think people who are actively engaged in supporting and perpetuating these crimes and atrocities are not those that can be reintegrated. Well, you can't be picky and choosy. He was giving his opinion, which did influence his audience, which did influence the Trump administration on how to act and market their actions. So again, Charlie Kirk promoting the Trump administration's ICE policies and Israel's policies in Palestine is how he manufactured consent amongst his viewership, using his platform to broadly improve the manufactured consent from mainstream media and other sources to drive the policies being normalized in society. Because again, 9 months ago, starvation of the innocent was not normal. 7,000 deportations a day of innocent civilians was not normal. It took 9 months for that to become normalized, and Charlie Kirk had a direct role in making that possible. So, all of which is to say, complicitness doesn't necessarily have to mean that he was getting a paycheck from the administration or a title. Complicity is in the act itself. So, that being said, why would this administration kill Charlie Kirk or allow Charlie Kirk to die, even if it came from a different source? Well, that goes back to the point that with his death, MAGA and conservative rhetoric is now ramping up even further to justify its calls to action and violence against Democrats, liberals, left-leanings, Antifa, immigrants, and transgendered folks. Hence why the bullets were engraved with transgender ideology and Antifa ideology. That has been largely debunked since then, but now we're perpetuating footage of a person who does not meet the original description of a guy who was fully kitted out, right? So, again, Charlie's death and the fact that they are offering him the Presidential Medal of Honor posthumously is showing that this administration is canonizing, martyring, Charlie Kirk and using his death as a rallying cry for the base to push the agenda, which was already totalitarian to begin with, but now looking for more justification. You're going to see more crackdowns against liberal groups, organizations, cities. You're going to see more rhetoric against transgender individuals. You're going to see more rhetoric against illegals and immigrants broadly, because they are going to use this death, which has nothing to do with any of what I just said, to justify the hate and the violence, because they're going to find a way to pin his death on those different demographic targets. And that is why it's a conspiracy. That is why it would be a false flag, because fundamentally his death continues to perpetuate the administration's goals, policies, and platform. And that, folks, is why him being sacrificed is still in the benefit of this administration. Like, what did the inscription say? Yeah, no, and that's the other thing too, right? Like, how are you going to put a whole manifesto on a bullet? You're just not. So that's my expose on Charlie Kirk, the conspiracies, so on and so forth. Do I consider the Democratic Party fascist? And partially because they are pro-Israel. No, I consider the Democratic Party fascist because they manipulate their own elections. They co-opt all organizations and movements that could potentially affect change, and they also focus heavily on destroying any of those movements that they cannot co-opt, while giving lip service to being against right-wing policies, yet voting for, passing, and advocating for their passage, and not doing enough to sabotage their passage in the first place. So, the Democrats are fascist because they are perpetuating, aiding, and abetting the same fascist policies that the conservatives are pushing through openly and brazenly. The Democrats are just pretending to be against it. So, no. They are not the opposition in any sense of the word. Hope that cleared that, or answers your question there. Dang. The politics category tag has a lot more people on it now. It's a much more difficult and a more competitive tag to get in on now. This sucks. All right. Let's get started with the videos. We'll start with Democracy Now's video, and then we'll probably just go down the line a little bit. Yeah, Democrat advisor application. They wouldn't accept it anyway if you have any affiliation with me, regardless.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A manhunt is underway for the shooter who killed the conservative activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University on Wednesday. Kirk founded the conservative youth organization Turning Point USA when he was just 18 years old and played a crucial role in President Trump's 2024 victory. Kirk was speaking outside, taking questions from the crowd, when he was killed by a single shot fired from a nearby rooftop on campus. Utah Governor Spencer Cox said, quote, "I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination," unquote. Here's Scott Robbins, who witnessed the shooting.
Absolute horrible event. You know, Charlie Kirk, he goes up there. He even has security to protect him from other extremists that have attacked him before, from just debating him civilly. And so people didn't expect that kind of thing to happen.
President Trump.
Which literally goes to the point that having more guns involved and more people with guns involved doesn't prevent gun violence, because that's the point of a gun, right? This is a prop, but it's modeled after the AR-15. It is rifled, or it is, what's the word? Now, why can I never think of the words when I'm trying to do explanations here? It is chambered for 5.56 ammunition, which 5.56 ammunition has effective range of upwards of 1,600 yards, right? Scopes have anywhere between 300 to that 1,600 yard thing, right? Bigger scopes, more range. This kind of scope, the size of this scope, might give you like 100 yards of range. The rifle itself is capable of 1,600 yards of range. So, unless you have enough guns and people with guns on every horizontal surface with an angle towards the target, up to and including a mile away, you will never have enough guns or people with guns to prevent gun violence from happening, because there will always be a shooter capable of making the shot from more and more ridiculous ranges, distances, and degrees of attack. So to perpetuate this idea, which is what conservatives do when they argue for the Second Amendment, that a good guy with a gun prevents violence, is simply not true. Because then it would say that all of the people that were there protecting Charlie Kirk were all good guys with a gun, and they weren't able to stop the one good guy with a gun that was from whichever distance away. So we have to lay that to rest. We need gun regulation, and we need better safety parameters, and we need better access to healthcare. I mean, that's all the bottom line. That with the Second Amendment, we just have to do better from both ends, on a regulatory end and on a mental health end. This shouldn't be the debate, and yet this is where we are.
Blamed the, quote, radical left for Kirk's death before a suspect has been identified, and even tied the shooting to his own assassination attempt.
Back on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year.
This is why I say it's a false flag, because again, the assassination attempt against Trump, both of them, did nothing to him. Although the one he got cut on his ear, what, did he have plastic surgery and have his entire ear replaced? Like, I'm pretty certain we don't have that good of plastic surgery. So, unless that is a prosthetic ear, he didn't actually get shot. And he's politicizing the fact that he got shot by a left-wing extremist, trying to tie that into Charlie Kirk's attack by also blaming it on the left wing, which is, again, to perpetuate this regime's efforts to undermine any sort of left-wing ideology. Because that's what power does. It tries to centralize and consolidate its power, its authority, to justify its existence. Now, I'm not going to listen to this, so we're skipping ahead.
Including the former Democratic Speaker of the Minnesota House, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, who were assassinated in June. Kirk was shot in the midst of talking about mass shootings.
No, the guy that was behind him absolutely got killed, 100%. But the problem is the assassination attempt was to make Trump look like a survivor and strong despite the attack. Because if he was really under danger, under threat, under imminent life-threatening danger, Secret Service would not have allowed him to stand up at all. Like, they would have kept him, forcibly prevented him from standing up. Also, the fact that the pictures that were taken were at the perfect angle to make a photo finish ending. So again, false flag. It's not that the event didn't happen and that it wasn't a real event, but the event that happened was to distract from the other event or activity, which is to get Trump elected and build up sympathy for him in the polls. So they sacrificed innocent civilians for him to get elected. Now, granted, we can also argue that they rigged the election through the voting machines, which they probably did that as well, but we don't have proof yet for that. And it doesn't seem like those investigations are also progressing.
Was asked by an audience member about the number of transgender...
No, I don't think Charlie's was supposed to be fake. I absolutely believe it was supposed to be him getting got. Partially because Charlie Kirk started pushing the Epstein list, but also they needed to martyr somebody in the MAGA movement, okay? Now hear me out. If I was the fascist dictator and I felt that my support was slipping, or that I needed to justify more of my actions, I can't sacrifice people on my administration. I've already put myself in danger, and I'm already ignoring the Supreme Court legislators and this, that, and the other, but now the states and cities are pushing back against me, so I'm losing my momentum. What I would then do is manufacture a crisis. I would do something real, but to manufacture a greater crisis, which would be then to go after people within my movement that are not officially a part of the administration or officially a part of the government. So yeah, I would sacrifice a Charlie Kirk, a Ben Shapiro, an Andrew Tate, a somebody, right? One of these right-wing pundits, and I would pick the one that might become a thorn in my side, and Charlie Kirk was becoming a thorn in my side. So if I was Trump and I needed to build momentum again for my fascist takeover of the country and to distract from me trying to send people into the cities and the states where they are unwanted and being resisted heavily, I would go after the lowest hanging fruit, which in this case would be Charlie Kirk. I guess Charlie is the one who would activate the MAGA youth, but Charlie is the most popular of those. So it makes sense that the MAGA youth would be angrier about him dying. Exactly. And it's not like you still don't have Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, right? It's not like you still don't have MAGA influencers that can still appeal to the youth. But Charlie Kirk was becoming dangerous by being uppity. You see what I'm saying? I don't think the Trump thing was false flag at all. Why do I disagree with everything today? You can disagree. This is not an echo chamber chat. This is a chat that will not allow anti-Semitism or pro-genocide rhetoric, but, you know, there are some lines that we just won't cross. But remember, I'm not calling it a false flag because I think it didn't happen. False flag definition. Again, and I want you all to understand that when I use the term false flag, genocide, fascism, and whatever, I'm trying to use the most definitive version of that and not just use it for sensationalism. A false flag operation is an act committed with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and pinning the blame on another party. The term false flag originated in the 16th century as an expression meaning an intentional misrepresentation of someone's allegiance. The term was originally used to describe a ruse in naval warfare whereby a vessel flew the flag of a neutral or enemy country to hide its true identity. The tactic was initially used by pirates and privateers to deceive other ships into allowing them to move closer before attacking them. It later was deemed an acceptable practice during naval warfare, according to international maritime laws, provided the attacking vessel displayed its true flag before commencing an attack. The term today extends to include countries that organize attacks on themselves and make the attacks appear to be by enemy nations or terrorists, thus giving the nation that was supposedly attacked a pretext for domestic repression or foreign military aggression, as well as to engender sympathy. Similarly, deceptive activities carried out during peacetime by individuals of non-governmental organizations have been called false flag operations, but the more common legal term is a frame-up, stitch-up, or setup. So it might be, in terms of context, more accurate to say that when Trump was running for office, it was a frame-up, but the Charlie Kirk thing would still be a false flag because it could be a pretext for domestic repression or foreign military aggression. If the Trump thing was a false flag, I would expect them to handle the Epstein files better. But why would they have to? Because if it didn't result in immediate overthrow of DC through mass civil unrest, then that means they had time to water down the story and share their misinformation and have the mainstream media just, again, dilute the story until people and their outrage and their anger die down enough to where they can start playing whatever game they want with it and push it off into the end, which is exactly what happened. The reason why this administration is getting away with the Epstein files, among many other things, is because they continue to dilute those stories instead of trying to tackle them head on and giving fuel to the fire. They dilute the stories. And then once they are diluted enough, they move on to the next thing. They could not even hide that the file of the video was not the original footage. Exactly. Some people do use the false flag as an event that didn't happen. That's how Alex Jones uses it. For example, he said that Sandy Hook was a false flag to disarm people. He said that the kids didn't really die and the parents were played by actors. That's why Alex Jones ended up in court. And that's why I was confused when people were saying that the Charlie Kirk thing was a false flag. Well, that's because they're using the false flag incorrectly. False flag is a real thing that is really happening. It is an act committed with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and then pinning the blame on another party. So a false flag happens. It is definitely a thing that happens. It's like the Twin Tower attacks by terrorists, where the only surviving evidence was the pristinely preserved passport of one of the bombers whose nationality was Iran, right? Or was it Iraq or something? Point being, that proved that it was a terrorist attack. That's the false flag. And it was a pretext for foreign military aggression. So definitively, 9/11 is a false flag operation. So too, we will see in the near future that the Charlie Kirk murder was in fact a false flag operation because of how this government is choosing to respond. I don't think the getting away is the problem of lack of evidence, though. I think they messed up enough. It's the lack of action from the opposition which causes them to get away. Yeah, no, that is also true. That is 100% true. That is exactly why I say the Democrats are complicit. Now, specifically in the Epstein files, they are complicit because they are also in the Epstein files. Like, trust and believe, there are just as many Democrats as there are Republicans on that list and in those documents. But, yeah. The lack of opposition is part of the complicitness with Democrats and the lack of an opposition party. Yeah, we are absolutely destroying apolitical's beliefs and image of the United States of America. It's just one giant fucking cloud of deceit, deception, and fascism. Yeah, I don't doubt it. And again, it's not that 9/11 didn't happen and that the 3,000 didn't die and that Flight 93 didn't happen or that the Pentagon wasn't attacked, right? It's not that any of those things did not happen. It's that the reason why they happened was to give the United States justification to go into the Middle East and continue the war on terror that Daddy Bush was unable to complete. You feel like a centrist today? Trust me, whenever Anna starts talking about revolution and like Spanish history or like Latin American history, I feel like a centrist. Like I had just crawled out from under a rock and learned about politics for the first time.
Mass shooters in the country compared to the overall number of mass shooters when a bullet hit him in the neck.
Oh, hold on, let's hear that again.
Transgender things. He was asked by an audience member about the number of transgender mass shooters in the country compared to the overall number of mass shooters when a bullet hit him in the neck. In the past, Charlie Kirk repeatedly praised the Second Amendment and downplayed the seriousness of gun violence. Here's what he said back in April of 2023.
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. Wow. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
Charlie.
So they're not God-given rights, they're constitutional rights. That's his first problem. And secondly, I don't know why people are upset that he's dead or that we're celebrating that he's dead because, quite frankly, he's living up to his ideals. He is now some of the few gun deaths that are necessary to justify the Second Amendment to protect the other rights. Granted, constitutional, not God-given.
Kirk's murder comes after the former FBI special agent in charge of Salt Lake City, Mehtab Syed, was forced out last month after just 6 months on the job. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. In Colorado, a student opened fire at a high school, injuring 2 of his classmates. The gunman died of self-inflicted injuries. Authorities are currently investigating a motive for the attack. On social media, Colorado Governor Jared Polis posted, quote, "We are all praying for the victims and the entire community," he said. Israeli airstrikes hit Yemen Wednesday, killing 35 people and injuring 131.
Did we miss that? Because we did not cover Yemen at all, I don't think, yesterday. Son of a bitch.
The strikes on the capital Sana'a and the northern province of Al-Jawf come a day after Israel's strike on Qatar targeting senior Hamas leadership. Yemen's health ministry said Israel attacked civilian and residential areas in Sana'a, as well as a government compound in Al-Jawf province. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the strikes were in response to a Houthi drone attack that struck an airport in southern Israel earlier this week. Qatar's Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim Al Thani, said Wednesday the Israeli strike on Qatar killed any hope for the hostages in Gaza. Speaking with CNN, he also called the deadly strike that killed 6 people Tuesday an act of state terror and said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu needs to be brought to justice.
Which he 100% does. Again, how are you defending your country by attacking every other fucking country? That's not how that works. That's not self-defense. That's aggression. Now, to your point, I like to talk. I hope that Qatar will fight Israel. I really hope Qatar doesn't fight Israel because, quite frankly, if these countries that have been attacked by Israel start fighting back and ganging up on Israel, all of the steps and ground that we have gained in Europe and the United States of possibly punishing Israel for their aggression and their violence and their genocide is going to go out the window, and they're going to go all shoulder to shoulder lockstep to put down any country that actually raises arms against Israel. The only reason why nobody actually attacked Iran after Iran shot back against Israel is because they were a presumed nuclear power and a much, much larger country. But countries like Qatar, Yemen, Libya, and Jordan, I believe, they are significantly smaller, so that European countries would be far more inclined to actually do something about it. But nobody wants to stir the hornet's nest of Iran. So it seems like the only country right now that could push back against Iran or Israel would in fact be Iran. But Qatar is not one of them. Now they will realize the evil plan for Israel. No, I do agree, though, that Israel needs to be held accountable. And also, welcome back to the stream. It's been a while. Glad to have you with us still. I knew Charlie Kirk was dead when he got prayers from Netanyahu. Well, and that's the thing, and that's another reason why I find it to be a false flag. Why is this motherfucker offering condolences to Charlie Kirk? Did he offer condolences to when the Democratic state senator was murdered? Doubtful. I don't believe so. I'm pretty certain the answer is no. So the fact that he chose to offer condolences to this piece of shit is extremely, extremely telling.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting President Trump had a tense phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu about his attack on Qatar. Trump reportedly told Netanyahu the decision to target Hamas leaders in Qatar wasn't wise, that he was angry he learned about the attack from the U.S. military instead of Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli military reservists and family members of hostages protested and marched towards Israel's military headquarters in Tel Aviv Wednesday. This is Vicky Cohn, the mother of Nimrod Cohn, an Israeli hostage held in Gaza.
It's not only a march, it's also a protest that was organized by IDF soldiers that are against the war, and they say, like we, the families of the hostages, that our Prime Minister needs to stop the war and sign a deal that will bring all of the hostages back home.
Israeli forces have killed 22 Palestinians in Gaza since dawn, including 16 in Gaza City. 5 Palestinians were killed seeking food. Meanwhile, Al Jazeera is reporting Israel arrested 7 fishermen off the coast of Gaza City, holding them in an unknown location. Israel also bombed 3 homes in the densely populated Shati refugee camp in Gaza. This comes as Israel continues to bomb Gaza City, ordering the evacuation of nearly 1 million people.
I'm not understanding, we're reporting how many deaths are happening against Palestinian civilians seeking food, living in their homes or in their refugee camps, which are all war crimes, and yet it's not even causing outrage anymore. It's just, oh, I guess Israel's killing more civilians today. Like, this is exactly why I say that, yeah, fine, there are some people in Israel that are resisting this shit, and some people in the IDF that are resisting this shit. Great, good for them, kudos. Everybody else that's allowing this to continue, whether they're Israeli or they're part of, different governments across the globe, like, they're Zionists, and they deserve everything that is going to come for them, because this is an atrocity. Don't you think if Qatar fights Israel, Iran will help? I don't know what their status is. Iran and Qatar alliance. So, according to Wikipedia, the bilateral relations are there. They do have close ties. Both members are of the non-aligned movement and the Organization of the Islamic Conference. And Qatar generally refrains from criticizing Iran's domestic and foreign activities. Qatar has held several high-level meetings with Iranian officials to discuss security and economic agreements. The two countries have a close economic relationship which affects their diplomatic relations, particularly in the oil and gas industries. They jointly control the world's largest natural gas field along their maritime borders. So, would they get involved? That's a good question, because do they have the similar agreement where, like with NATO, if one NATO country gets attacked by Russia, every NATO country attacks Russia? I don't know that Qatar and Iran necessarily have that kind of relationship. And also, Iran doesn't necessarily want to wage war against Israel either, because they don't want to receive the ire of the EU and America. So, again, pushing for war, right? Qatar attacking Israel and Israel attacking back and Iran falling into defense and this, that, and the other, that's just going to escalate into World War III. So any advocacy for war, conflict, combat, aggression in the region is not a good thing for anybody on planet Earth. What should happen and what needs to happen is the dissolution of Israel. And that needs to happen from the United Nations or the EU. And if the United States of America won't participate in it, then other countries need to circumvent America and make it happen. Now, again, does that even happen without war and conflict? Maybe, maybe not. There's certainly a way in which it could, because if the EU decides to dissolve Israel, is America going to go to war with the entire European Union? No, not a chance in hell. But Israel might then start becoming extremely desperate and leaking all of the blackmail it has on European leaders and US leaders to save its own existence. So I would like to see the political fallout first, which would prevent the military fallout from happening. Iran said it will ally with the entire Islamic world that fights Israel, which may very well be true. They might very well follow through on that promise, but if they do that, World War III is assured. Yes.
On Wednesday, Palestinians searched through rubble and debris at the site of a Gaza City residential tower building that was hit by an Israeli strike. Here's Magid Sukar, who was sheltering in a tent near the tower.
4 tons of explosives hit the tower. Our belongings flew in the air. Our tents are gone. Our money is gone. Our conditions have gotten worse. There's no shelter for us. What does Trump want? What does Netanyahu want?
Members of...
Well, unfortunately for him, the answer to that question is that they want him dead. And I'm not trying to be crass or whatever else when I say that, but that's the truth. And the fact that the truth that the United States of America and Israel want Palestinians dead, erased, removed, extinguished from their own lands is again, all more than enough justification for me to want them to face tribunals and then at the end of those tribunals be executed for their crimes, because there is no justification, there is no defense in their actions, there is no reformation. Stephen Miller is a monster. All right, Kirsten Noem is a monster. Netanyahu is a monster, right? All of these people, Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, Trump, they're all monsters. They are bloodthirsty monsters that are gunning for genocide. They do not deserve to exist on this earth and have a chance of freedom and breathing air freely. Again, they just don't. But there are so many other countries that are not doing anything about this genocide either, and their leaders and their parliaments and this, that, and the other are doing nothing to intervene, and they are complicit. And that is why I am such a strong proponent of the death penalty for these fuckers. So, hold on a second. That mofo is an unserious clown. Yeah, well, they're all unserious clowns. Or rather, they take themselves far, far too seriously.
The global Samud flotilla are vowing to continue their efforts to break Israel's siege on Gaza after two of the group's ships came under fire, apparently from drone attacks while docked in Tunisia.
And didn't the country where they were docking say that it was a regular fire? Let's take a look at that again.
Apparently from drone.
How the fuck is that a regular fire? And I don't think I can easily move this like the 2 seconds.
Under fire, apparently from drone attacks while docked in Tunisia.
That is an airborne strike. That is a vertical drop down where the impact causes the flames. So, like, what are they fucking smoking to say that that was anything other than a drone strike?
After initial downplaying the attacks, Tunisia's Interior Ministry said Wednesday they were premeditated acts, but did not name a suspect. Activists have...
What do you mean there isn't a fucking suspect? Yeah, regular fire after a drone strike that was caused by cigarettes, right? Israel said it came from inside. They are truly evil. Yeah, no, Israel was saying, oh no, that was clearly from the inside, the cigarettes. Yeah, sure, maybe the missile or bomb that was dropped landed in the boat and landed on a pack of cigarettes and ignited. Like, sure, cigarettes can be involved for all I give a shit, but cigarettes cannot possibly cause a conflagration like that. That plume of fire, there is no fucking way that could be cigarettes. You couldn't burn a cigar. You couldn't burn them fast enough. You could have a blowtorch and still not create a plume that high. You would have to have gasoline soaked materials for a plume to go that high. But if you did have gasoline soaked materials for a plume to go that high, it would also be an explosion outward. It wouldn't just be a flame tower either. So there is no explanation for that makes any sort of logical sense other than that it was an aerial strike. Was that a warning strike? Yeah, and I'm using my veteran background in explaining how that was not anything other than a strike. Was that a warning strike? No, that was a direct hit. What it was a non-ballistic round. It looks like it was more of an incendiary round, which, again, was used to, instead of destroy the ship, to instill fear, to discourage further activities. So if you want to call that a warning strike, sure, but typically warning strikes are ballistic shots that hit off of the side. Like, say this is the ship and this is the water, right? A warning shot would hit right here, causing the vessel to bob and flow, or here and cause it to bob and flow. That's a warning. that we are going to shoot live ammunition at you. But when it's an actual impact, it can have one of two effects: actual destruction or deterrence.
Have directly implicated Israel, with a spokesperson saying there is no other authority that would do such an attack, unquote.
Correct.
On Wednesday, thousands of Tunisians rallied at a beach near Tunis to support the group's efforts to bring humanitarian.
It would be altogether too easy to sink a civilian vessel with any sort of military armament. Like if you shot one of those boats in the hull with 5.56 rounds, you could sink it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it does not take much to sink a regular vessel.
Aid to Gaza.
We cannot commit ourselves to Palestine without committing ourselves to all the other oppressed. But it begins with Palestine, because Palestine crystallizes all the complicities of our governments, And that is why we, the people, must take the place of our governments, because they do not do it. And we, people who have never sailed, commit ourselves on boats and are going to achieve the impossible.
There are dozens of countries represented by the participants in the Samud flotilla. Later in the broadcast, we'll go to Tunisia for an update. Israeli President...
How many cops does it take to get Samuel to the ground? Well, fun fact, there's a video that answers the question, and it's 2. Or it was 2. Now I'm a little bit stronger. You see how that moved? Look. Look, wait for it. It moved. But that's also if I'm not resisting arrest, which I wasn't resisting arrest. If I wanted to resist arrest, I'd probably end up getting killed. And then it depends on how many cops were there to shoot at me. But yeah, I mean, I'm just a human being. I'm just a guy. I'm not super strong. I'm not a world-class combat athlete. I'm not Bruce Lee. I'm not Jackie Chan. I'm not even Chuck Norris, right? So, yeah. I watched a video of some channel mad at you for stepping out of the car. Yeah, no, that was the arrest video. That was the arrest video that they were talking about. Absolutely. And the one cop tackled me while the other cop was trying to handcuff me and to try to break my arm as well, and I wasn't having any part of that. One of these days we'll play that video.
Isaac Herzog says he argued...
I mean, quite frankly, that's such small potatoes in the grand scheme of things that unless there is a police brutality incident again, there's even no reason to bring it up.
With British Prime Minister Keir Starmer during a tough meeting at 10 Downing Street, London, Wednesday. Speaking at the Chatham House think tank after the talks, Herzog said Israel's war in Gaza is aimed at, quote, defending Western values.
How is genocide defending Western values? How in the flying fuck? How in the flying fuck is carpet bombing an impoverished people cut off from everything defending Western values? How is anything short of, I don't know, trade and cultural exchange defending Western values? How is the massacre of an entire people Western values? Please enlighten us, motherfucker.
We are defending Europe. We are defending Western values in the free world with the blood and the tears of our sons and daughters and families. That's what we're doing.
How? How does murdering people in the Middle East to take their land, how does taking and attacking other countries in the Middle East to take their fucking land defend Western society in the slightest? Evil motherfucker. This guy, he's definitely getting the noose or the choppy or the pew pew. Like, this motherfucker is 100% a war criminal. You did not back down when the taser was pulled. Respect for that. Actually, he had the gun pulled on me first. He then switched to a taser, and I called him out on that. I said, if you're going to point a taser at me and de-escalate, then why are you being aggressive in the first place? Tell me what's fucking going on. But anyway, I digress. I already knew that Sam survived when I watched it, and I still thought that they were going to kill him when watching. Well, did modern imperialism ever end? No, it just rebranded itself as neoliberalism. We are history nerds. Yes, we are. Anna more so because she lived through most of human history.
As Israeli President Herzog spoke, protesters gathered outside Chatham House holding signs reading, "Stop the slaughter, don't listen to war criminals." Meanwhile, the front page headline of the Scottish newspaper, The National, read, "Starmer rolls out red carpet for genocide."
It does.
According to Middle East Eye, the Crown Prosecution Service's Counterterrorism Division appointed a prosecutor to urgently review an application for an arrest warrant for President Herzog. Palestinian rights groups cited his remarks in October 2023, stating all Palestinians in Gaza were unequivocally responsible for the October 7th Hamas.
Exactly! He's unilaterally condemning everyone for an attack that they could not have had any knowledge in doing. Again, the October 7th attack is also a false flag. We know unequivocally it was a false flag. We know empirically it was a false flag because Israel called it the Hannibal Directive. Israel moved the concert to in front of Auschwitz and then bombed it and blamed Hamas. We already know that Israeli soldiers had already infiltrated Hamas and or pretended to be Hamas regardless to claim ownership of the attack. Hamas was not organized enough to reorganize their operation against that concert with such little notice. Again, false flag. An event that occurs to disguise or cover up the actual intent so that blame can be placed elsewhere. And that's all October 7th was. And that motherfucker was blaming all of Palestine from day one. This was a premeditated genocide from day fucking one. And most of the people in Gaza are children. Yes. All of it.
Attacks. Despite the investigation, UK authorities made no attempt to arrest Herzog. Poland has invoked Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty, calling for consultations with fellow NATO members, including the United States, after at least 19 Russian drones flew deep into Polish territory overnight Tuesday. The incursion prompted Polish and NATO forces to scramble fighter jets as authorities closed major airports. On Wednesday, Polish Prime Minister Tusk told Parliament, quote, "This situation brings us the closest we've been to open conflict since World War II," unquote. In Kyiv, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky slammed Western leaders for what he called a lack on action against Russia, calling the drone incursion another provocation by Moscow.
From the first hour of the night, our military recorded Russian drones moving towards the Polish border. And this movement was not an accident or a mistake, but deliberate movement. The Russians used both our territory and Belarusian territory to push them into Polish airspace.
This weekend, Belarus is set to play.
And that's another thing. This is why I'm not an advocate for war and conflict, because again, why are we doing this nonsense? Secondly, it's very telling that the European countries haven't actively supported Ukraine and from the incursion of Russia, because that would trigger the entire NATO organization to have to gear up for war. And for what? To go against Russia? Because would it stop with Ukraine being restored back to its original state? No, it wouldn't. They would push back and forth, and then it would just continue to escalate. Again, we do not need war in the modern times. What we need is fascists to be removed from office by their citizenry, by force if necessary, and have actual democratic processes occur so that we don't have fascists in power anymore. Like that's the thing that needs to happen, and war is not the solution to that problem.
host to major joint military drills of Russian and Belarusian forces. They're the first such war games since early 2022, right before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Trump administration is considering military strikes on Venezuela if President Nicolas Maduro doesn't step up pressure on drug cartels, according to independent investigative reporter Ken Klippenstein, citing military sources who said the Pentagon's drafting plans to attack Venezuela's military aircraft or to bomb its airfields. This comes just days after Venezuelan F-16 fighter jets buzzed U.S. Navy ships gathering north of Venezuela. Meanwhile, The Intercept is reporting the 11 people on board the boat in the Caribbean that was destroyed by the U.S. military last week were said to have survived an initial strike and were killed shortly after in follow-up attacks. The boat reportedly turned back toward shore after people on board apparently spotted a military aircraft stalking it. Republican Senator Rand Paul revealed the attack was carried out by a drone. Paul criticized the strike as a breach of long-accepted rules of engagement. The Trump administration's claim,
which is what I fucking said yesterday, that it did not follow the rules of engagement. And evidently, the missile didn't even kill everybody, but they followed it up with more missiles, meaning not only did they commit a war crime, they then attempted to cover it up. Holy fucking shit. Yes, the Palestine genocide really showed me there are no countries who can claim moral high ground. That is an unequivocal fact. Even the Western world, we are so free considered, yes. I don't even think Trump will defend a NATO ally if it gets attacked, if it would not be in his interest. No, you're 100% correct. He would not defend a NATO ally. He's trying to force NATO to deal with its own problems.
Evidence that targeted Venezuelan drug traffickers. Legal experts call the extrajudicial killings acts of murder and a war crime.
Which they are.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has fired the UK ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, over his ties to the disgraced, now dead sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein. A senior Foreign Office official told members of Parliament,
by the way, is a valid move to make once you find out a member of your administration was part of the pedophile cabal. The fact that seems to be the only guy who has faced any repercussions from it is a really huge fucking problem.
Mandelson had failed to disclose the extent and depth of his friendship with Epstein when Starmer appointed him ambassador. This comes after the tabloid newspaper The Sun published a trove of emails revealing Mandelson urged Epstein to fight for early release from prison after his 2008 conviction for procuring a child for prostitution, writing, quote, "Your friends stay with you and love you," he said.
Good God.
In Washington, D.C., Republican House Oversight Chair James Comer has rejected calls to hear testimony from a forensic handwriting expert about Donald Trump's signature on a birthday letter in Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book. The note features a nude sketch of a woman and concludes with the words, "May every day be another wonderful secret," unquote. On Wednesday, Comer told reporters the letter has, quote, "absolutely nothing to do with the overall investigation," unquote. This comes a day after the White House said it would support a forensic analysis of the signature amidst Trump's repeated denials that he'd signed it. Meanwhile, Senate Republicans blocked a bid by Democratic Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to compel the Justice Department to release the Epstein files.
So wait, Chuck Schumer finally does something and they still block it? Like, how fucking useless are the Democrats that even when they do the right thing, they still can't get it across the finish line? Unfucking believable. Right, and it's unequivocally his signature. It's his writing, it's everything about... And the fact, to your point earlier, apolitical, how can this administration survive the Epstein files? By denying, delaying, and denying. And, of course, projecting onto everybody else so that the story is diluted and they are focusing on the lies, the denials, and the projection, rather than focusing on the actual story, which is why we don't actually have a free press in America anymore, because they're not focusing on the story. They continuously follow the little distractions that are placed into the news by this administration. It's fucking disgusting.
Former senior FBI officials who were fired last month are suing FBI Director Kash Patel and the Trump administration, alleging they were let go as part of a campaign of retribution for refusing to demonstrate loyalty to President Trump. Brian Driscoll, the former acting FBI director, Stephen Jensen, who ran the Washington field office, and Spencer Evans, who led the Las Vegas field office, are all alleging Patel chose to follow orders from the White House rather than federal law. According to the lawsuit, Driscoll and other top officials tried to stop attempts to fire and punish FBI officials for working on criminal probes of Trump. In Texas, immigrant rights groups and supporters.
You have the FBI actively investigating the president of the United States, and then the president of the United States shuts those investigations down by firing the agents. And then the agents, the supervisors, the leadership who try to push back also get fired. Gee, it's almost as if that is a clear-cut definition of a cover-up.
Are demanding the release of an El Paso DACA recipient after a federal judge terminated her deportation proceedings. Catalina Xochitl Santiago is a longtime community organizer who was seized by Border Patrol agents at the El Paso airport in early August as she was about to board a domestic flight for work. Santiago remains in an ICE jail even after immigration judge Michael Pletters ruled on Monday that her DACA status remains valid and that she cannot be deported or moved until federal judges can review her case. Meanwhile, more than three.
And again, she was on a plane for business purposes. She was here legally under DACA status, meaning we are targeting brown people for the simple fact that they are fucking brown and that it is easy to track information in convenient places like schools, workplaces, and airports. Like, how these raids and arrests are not seen as the Nazi roundups of the Jewish population, how people do not see the correlation is literally lost upon me. Because that's not like anything another president who's guilty would ever do, right? And I just, again, I feel like a broken record, having to constantly repeat, we are doing fascist shit, we are doing Nazi shit, we are doing to immigrants what the Nazis did to the Jews. Like, at what point does it sink into people like, we're the bad guys and we are doing very, very bad things? And it's not funny or cute or cool or edgy to say otherwise. It makes you an accessory.
300 South Korean workers who were rounded up by ICE at a Hyundai plant in Georgia last week are expected to be deported to depart for South Korea today. At a news conference Wednesday, South Korea's president said the incident makes South Korean companies more hesitant to invest in the United States. And in New York City, mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani is calling on FIFA to abandon dynamic pricing for the 2026 Men's World Cup as part of his Game Over Greed petition. Here's Mamdani yesterday.
Oh, boy. It's because we know this guy, who has been walking back every single one of his policy positions and platform positions since winning the fucking primary. Sure, let's listen to him. Why not?
That while New York City is proud to be one of the hosts of the World Cup final next year, so many of our neighbors will not afford to be able to be there. They will not afford to be able to be there because FIFA is quadrupling the max ticket price that it will charge in order to be in attendance. They will not afford to be able to be there because FIFA is now.
We have an active genocide in Palestine. We have escalation of tensions between Europe and Russia. We have escalating tensions in the Middle East, outright, thanks to Israel. We have war crimes being committed off the coast of Venezuela. We have this administration sending the National Guard into liberal cities and states. We have ICE continuing to engage in raids and kidnappings and human trafficking at an unprecedented rate. We have breathtaking income equality in New York City. We have a housing crisis in New York City. We have a transportation crisis in New York City. There's a job crisis in New York City. And this motherfucker is choosing to talk about prices to the World Cup when FIFA is actually talking about moving the location of the World Cup because of the racist human trafficking and kidnapping being engaged upon by this administration. You choose to hold a press conference denouncing the price of a World Cup ticket when rent is skyrocketing, groceries are skyrocketing, and wages are stagnant while profits from corporations continue to rise quarter over quarter. Sure, why not? Screw that shit. Even Comic-Con in New York has super expensive prices. Just get a frickin' autograph from a celebrity. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I've never really gone to conventions. A $70 ticket to walk around a convention to see the booths and all the neat stuff and cosplay is just not worth it to me. Especially when then you buy things there. It's like going to your local county fair, but infinitely more expensive. Even though I'm a nerd and I enjoy that stuff. Like, I'm not going to spend all that money just to walk around what do you call it? The community center or whatever. We're not doing well, fam. No, we're not. I remember when Comic-Con was becoming a big thing, they didn't charge you for celebrity autographs. Now they do in big prices. Right, because celebrities are using that as a way to pad their pockets in between movies and rehearsals. Or whatever they're famous for. And like, yeah, $50 an autograph doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, especially when it's 1,000 autographs in a day. That's $50,000 for a day's of work of just signatures. So yeah, no, it is out of pocket. Okay, but as mayor, you have to address local issues, right? You would think so. You would think so. Yeah, and it's why I don't go anymore, aside from it's super crowded, true. I live in New York and we have way bigger issues. Exactly, and I'm not even certain I named all of the issues that New Yorkers actually care about. I named the issues that I'm aware of in New York. I disliked some recent things Mamdani said and gave some AOC vibes. That is because he is the new AOC of the Democratic Party. Can you see the link? No. Most of the time we do not allow links to be shared. If you message it to Anna, she can post it though. Right, even the D-list celebs, right. I've seen wrestlers and cosplayers even be given celebrity booths. Yeah, I don't know how to individually allow somebody to do a link. I don't think you can just temporarily give... Well, I don't know. Hold on. Maybe you can press the mod button. So, x.com. All right, there we go. A new investigation has revealed that Gaza aid sites... Yes, we covered that yesterday. And we might be able to cover that some more today. Yes. That the biker group, Wear the Peace... Or no. The Infidels Motorcycle Club were inexplicably hired by the Department of Defense or state to go to Gaza and be aid workers. Of the 200 that were hired, 40 were from that specific gang alone. We 100% covered that. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for bringing that up. People should feel honored people want your autograph. If you have enough money, don't ask money for that stuff. Yeah, no, honestly, when I was first coming off of the DNC chair race, people were asking me, what are your speaking fees? I'm like, if you can provide room and board and travel costs, I will speak at your location, because I don't think it's right to ask for $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 to speak, especially if it's at a local community or at a school or a university. Like, I don't believe that you should charge for that. So I found out that Charlie Kirk sat down with Rob Smith, who's gay, and Rob complained that gay insults were hurled at him. He's calling Charlie a hero. Doesn't realize the irony of that. He is praising a guy who said he should die. Right, and that's the other problem, is that all of these pundits, all of these influencers are waxing poetic, trying to give eulogies for Charlie Kirk, saying, oh, don't be happy that he's dead. Oh, don't advocate for violence. Oh, what does that make you if you're celebrating his death? It's like, dude, this motherfucker hated every minority group you could think of and advocated for their pain, suffering, and exclusion from society. And you are trying to defend this motherfucker as if he was just some innocent bystander. And he wasn't. He was the original debate me bro, and with no good intent whatsoever. He was the one that had to change my mind table. Like, he was never a good faith actor. Never. Yeah, he went on the Jimmy Dore show, but the problem is the Jimmy Dore show has become very problematic of late. Just because someone is dead, it doesn't mean that they were a good person. Facts. I remember the fights going on over the death of John McCain. Right. So many people celebrated that shit. Henry Kissinger finally died, and the entire internet blew up in support of that, and only the Democrats were pearl clutching. Don't romanticize his death. They will use it against you to make you look savage. Correct. Change my mind table is the most obvious sign you don't want to change your mind. Exactly. And you know, it's funny. I even considered doing that as a stunt. Like going into Central Park or Madison Square Garden with the table and say, debate me, bro. Change my mind. DNC chair, or former DNC chair candidate, current candidate for president, debate me on an issue. But we never A, got around to it, and B, it's just, would people even go for it? And I don't mind debating the issues. I can even debate both sides of the issues. And who was that guy who I tried to debate live during one of our streams? He's a streamer with like hundreds of viewers, like 400 viewers at any given time. And his shtick is that he debates people who call into this number and then debate them live. But he only had 7 topics that he was willing to debate. And he wasn't even good at defending his topics. Like, I challenged his topics, and he only gave circular arguments on those topics. And when I tried to pick a different topic, he refused. So it's like, how are you going to make your entire platform, your entire shtick as a creator, being a debate me bro, and then limit it to the only topics that you know things about, and then not actually defend those topics that you allegedly know things about? Like, one of them was universal healthcare. Now, I am an advocate of universal healthcare. It is prominently stated on my website that I am an advocate for universal healthcare, and I even break down how it's going to be possible and why it should be that way. And even how we would transition from the current state of healthcare to a true universal system. So I tried debating against universal healthcare by advocating for free choice, improving access to care by privatizing it, making it more competitive, more accessible, blah, 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 blah. And all he did is say, well, people shouldn't be in debt People should have access to care because they're people. And it's like, okay, but you're not... Like, those are valid statements, but you are not disproving my take at all. You are not disproving my position. You're not debating me. All you're doing is creating an echo chamber for yourself. And that's not what a debate is. And debates, real debates, have definitive victors and losers. Because you made the most valid points and you were able to make the most cohesive argument. That's what a debate is. Not an echo chamber. But I digress. I need some more water. Yeah, he got beat at his specialty. It was pretty fucking horrendous. At the New York Post, they said he was just trying to change minds. Change them to what? Going back to the 1700s? Right. And that's the whole point of propaganda, is to influence people, right? Right-wing rhetoric is no different than left-wing rhetoric in the sense that it is trying to spread an ideology. The problem is left-wing rhetoric and ideology is to spread utopian society. Everybody has food, shelter, clothing, education, access to healthcare, transportation, utilities, the internet, travel, whatever, right? Equal opportunities, true equity, true meritocracy. That is left-wing utopian rhetoric. Right-wing utopian rhetoric is to create a white supremacist Christian ethno-state. And I'm sorry, you have the right to say those things. You sure do. I will never tell you you can't say you support a white Christian ethno-fascist state. That doesn't mean you get to have a platform, buddy. Nor does that mean you don't have consequences for saying those things, right? You can say the N-word. There's consequences for those actions. You can be anti-Semitic. There's consequences for those actions. So clearly, the right to free speech is not freedom from accountability for said free speech. Free speech also doesn't guarantee you a platform, because if it did, I would be on Fox, I would be on MSNBC, I'd be on CNN, I'd be on the Young Turks, I'd be on Hassan, making fun of him, saying, ooh, I'm Hassan, I'm 6'4", 225 and muscular, and I'm half naked in a bathtub. Ooh. If I was guaranteed a platform, I would be trolling as many motherfuckers as I could while espousing my rhetoric. But that's not the guarantee. The guarantee is that I have the right to say what I want to say. And I earn whatever viewership I have, which currently is 6. That's what I've earned. That is my platform. That is what I have earned. But if I am encouraging those 6 viewers to go murder black people, and then I have SWAT coming down my house with Second Amendment facing at my forehead, I can't just say, well, it was my First Amendment right to incite violence against black people. That's my right in the First Amendment to talk about inciting violence against black people. Well, hence the crime of inciting violence. You used your First Amendment rights, your platform, to incite violence against a group. That's a crime. That's a consequence. And Charlie Kirk has been exercising a fuck around and find out type of effort since he was 18. He just happened to find out 15 years later, you probably shouldn't spread violent rhetoric and incite violence amongst your followership using your platform, because it could backfire on you. So, all of which is to say, the right to free speech shall be guaranteed, shall be defended. But if you're going to be a Nazi, you're going to get the Nazi treatment. Okay, hold on. You think he's right and it's faked and Charlie Kirk is alive? Absolutely fucking not. Okay, so that link goes to a conspiracy on TikTok saying that Charlie Kirk was alive. All right, let me disabuse everyone of the notion that Charlie Kirk was alive. My name is Staff Sergeant Samuel Ronan, veteran United States Air Force. I have been a self-aid and buddy care instructor for 4 of the 6 years of my active duty time in the Air Force, and I received SABC instruction every single year that I was in the military, which was 12 years. So, part of that SABC instruction is how and when to use a tourniquet. Part of that training involved a video in which a pig had its artery severed and had the quick clot gauze shoved in there and a tourniquet applied to stop the bleeding. The pig was then butchered after the video. I can assure you unequivocally that with an arterial spurt, right, the blood would be gushing out. Now, it would be spurting if it was arterial, but if it was venous, it would gush. Now, he got shot. Because the video. He got shot right here. No, I guess he got shot here, but I have my video reflected. It doesn't matter. He got shot here, right? That is the jugular, right? There are some major veins, which you can actually see here, right? You can see these veins kind of popping a little bit, right? Yeah. He got shot right there, and it severed his spinal cord, which is why he did the T-Rex thing. That is a psychosymptomatic response to having your nerves fried, right? And the preceding fountain of blood is absolutely expected from a gunshot wound to the neck that also severed the spinal cord. So from somebody who served in the military, someone who underwent self-aid buddy care, had to go through, your basic SEER survival training and basic training and all that fun stuff. All of that fun stuff. He really got shot in the neck. First of all, he was wearing a white t-shirt and a very, I won't say tight-fitting t-shirt, but it wasn't loose enough to where you could have a blood pouch, skin-colored tape, and a hose that would have been big enough to cause a fountain to come out, right? Because if you had a tiny little straw, it wouldn't have been able to fountain that quick. You would have needed a really thick tube, right? Like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch thick tube or wide tube for that kind of gushing to happen. And it would have to be the tube, and you would have to squeeze like this, and he didn't. He was up like that. So there is zero chance that was anything other than him getting shot in the neck by a high-powered round. Charlie was taken into a chamber and turned into Darth Vader. Jesus Christ. It looks like the black box on his shirt is shooting him in the neck. That could have been the shadow of the bullet, to be fair. Do you think it's just a visual coincidence? Yes, I do think it was a visual coincidence. And neoliberal propaganda is to dump on progressives. It sure is. I've seen video professionals explain it. I'm fairly certain it was the shadow of the bullet. Or something with the frames. I get so excited, but then you ruined it. You can say what you want, but you can't give free passes to one thing and then demonize it when it's done by another side. Exactly, because again, Charlie Kirk and MAGA Republicans were all but cheering in the streets when the Democratic state representative got murdered. By one of their own, by one of their MAGA shooters. They were celebrating in the streets saying the first shots have been fired, the war is on, and death to the Democrats. So now that it happened to Charlie Kirk, I mean, you gotta stick to your tune. I had a Fed visit for less than that. Yeah. I remember you telling me about that. So basically, it's exactly what happened yesterday. The carotid artery. So if he had lived, he'd be paralyzed. Oh, he would 100% be paralyzed. He'd be a vegetable. If he managed to survive that, he would 100% be a vegetable. He was probably brain dead. If he had survived, he still would have been brain dead. So he was dead regardless. There is no question. We had to dissect a pig's heart in elementary school. What the fuck kind of ancient Greek school were you in where you had to dissect a pig's heart? Jesus. No, like brain dead paralysis. Like straight up, nothing going. Because the trauma, too, done to the brainstem. No. You're done. You're done. I only watched the far away one. I'm good on watching any more people die. That's not good for your mental health. It is definitely not. Bulletproof vests for all make Kevlar great again. Except a Kevlar vest wouldn't have stopped him from getting shot in the neck or the head. Which is, again, part of the problem with all of this ammo-sexual gun culture. You can have the most Punisher special forces, like extreme Halo Call of Duty warfare armor, and you're still gonna have your neck exposed, your limbs. Even if you wear the bulletproof bucket helmet, like, it's only gonna stop up to a certain rating of ammunition. It's not gonna stop a 50 cal. It's not gonna stop a shotgun slug round. It's just not gonna do those things, right? Kevlar makes you feel good because it's got all the straps and you can put your pistol there and you got all the rifle rounds and accessories. That's all it is. It's basically corsets for men. Watch a lot of true crime and horror. Have you analyzed it frame by frame? No, I didn't, but again, there's not much to analyze. If you put Kevlar around your neck, yeah, but then the trauma from the impact of the bullet to your neck would still crush your windpipe, and you would just asphyxiate instead. Two of them, and they blamed it on left-wingers. Of course they blamed it on left-wingers. They're not going to blame it on their own. Carotid artery. Listen, I am a politician and a veteran. I am a war fighter, mean mugging, boot kicking, liberal eating, Republican slapping, lean mean, sexy fighting machine. I ain't none of them there book learning types, learning to speak that there English with them their medical Latinized book vocabulary. I am here for the people, on for and behalf of. And we don't give a fuck how to say carotid artery. Hoorah. Well, yippee-ki-yay, I should say. What people are saying is that the black microphone box on his shirt seems to disappear and then the dot on his neck appears. So they think it's some kind of advanced CIA thing that flung a blood package or maybe did actually shoot him and that no one in the crowd killed him. I'm not even... So, the problem is they probably found footage from a cell phone that was of low quality or from television screens that aren't HD or aren't LED. Like, there are so many things that could have been. Like, shadows. It could have been, you know, he jerked up and then that came. Like, no. There also, in a tiny black box, there's no way that much blood could have been packed into it. That's just not a thing. Like, of all the conspiracy theories to talk about with Charlie Kirk, the fact that he's dead is not one of the conspiracy theories. It's the why was he killed and who gains from his death. Nama Norton is following. Thankfully, that follower thing is working again, so that's awesome. Thank you for the follow, I guess. Am I anti-Kirk? Yes. I am very obviously anti-Kirk. Something about the frames, right? Because again, a bullet is going to move way faster than even 60 frames per second could keep up with. Charlie had a huge, oh my God. Car sits for all men. You cannot ask people to share the stream. Imagine someone joining now. No! Please like, share, and subscribe. Share the stream. We need more. Well, that's the whole point of doing this damn stream, is to talk to more people, to talk about fighting fascism and fascists, and condemning genocide and ethnic cleansing within our own country and abroad. So yes, the more the merrier. Unless you're going to be pro-Israel and pro-genocide. Then you can go fuck yourself. Is that cigar smoking on Charlie Kirk? I'm actually debating smoking on stream. Because quite frankly, I need something to bring me down from the suffering and sheer horror and apocalyptic nature of our modern times. Like, I kind of do need this to take the edge off. I've also debated drinking a beer while on stream too. It doesn't make sense. You can see the hole in his neck. Right. He followed for that amazing speech you gave a minute ago. I'll take it. Why be anti of a man that got murdered and had children? Because he was a self-avowed neo-Nazi and white supremacist, and even said that if his daughter got raped today, he would still force her to carry the child to term. He also celebrated the deaths of Palestinian children by Israel, and is 100% condoning, supporting, and advocating for the illegal deportation, arrest, and targeting of migrants in America. So his legacy is hate. And anyone who tries to continue to espouse that platform should suffer consequences. Granted, personally, in the court of law, but they should suffer consequences for it. Who do you think killed him? The old man, the guy who fled with a bike, or the emo, or neither? I think it was a professional shooter contracted by the United States, specifically by the Trump administration, to facilitate the further demonization of transgender individuals and left-leaning organizations. You're right. Many bad people had children, too. Can I debate you regarding Palestine without your admins banning me? Probably not, because if your position on Palestine involves Israel has the right to defend itself, or that genocide is justified under specific circumstances, then you don't have a valid position. Like, that is nothing that should have ever been given credence in discourse at all. I was in Israel a year ago, and I've seen the most nice people ever. Yeah, there were plenty of nice Nazis, too. That doesn't change the fact that they were war criminals. We can never have nice things. Yeah. You know, we keep getting these followers, and they keep being fascist scumbags. We need lefties! Why are you all watching Hassan? Hassan's not even that handsome. My jaw is far more square and chiseled than his. I bet I would look okay in a bathtub too. What's Hassan got that I don't? An uncle from TYT? I'm just kidding, Hassan. I don't actually hate you, but I do want to rage bait your followers into coming onto this channel. Use Hassan hashtags. I think we should. I think I will in YouTube, actually. Oh, that's what I could do. I don't think that tag actually gave us anything. So let's, Hassanabi. We're going to add that tag. So when he's not live, they come here. Let's get you in that bathtub, right? I'll just do a little bit of do 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 do. oh, sure, you can offer your little anecdotes that you met nice people. There are nice people anywhere you go. That doesn't negate the trash horror that so many others are doing. Yeah, no, and that's the thing, right? I will gladly debate people that are conservative. I have no qualms debating your conservative policies, platforms, or views. I have no qualms whatsoever. What I am not going to do, though, is give a platform to fascists who have enough platforms already and control all of the narrative already because of a complicit mainstream media and a lack of an opposition party. Why the fuck would we give more platforms to fascists? Now, you want to debate abortion with me? Fine. You believe life begins at conception. Great. That's a religious take which has no basis in the rule of law. You want a religious state? Go to the Middle East. That's a debate. I dismantled your point in its entirety. Well, the founding fathers were Christian. No, the fuck they weren't. In fact, most of them were atheist, and all of them said that the specificity, or no, to prevent the wars that have mired Europe for centuries, it is paramount that the separation of church and state be held above all else. And that was Thomas Jefferson. I don't know if that's verbatim. I was trying to quote it correctly from memory, but I do believe it was Thomas Jefferson himself who said that. So, no, America was not founded under Christian values. In fact, a lot of the Constitution was founded under indigenous values. Yeah, the United Nations of Tribes. It was the fuck. What was it called now? It was it the Confederation of Native? Obviously, they didn't call themselves Native Americans, but it was something along those lines, and that's actually what the Constitution was modeled after. Those are things to debate, or taxes, or like the distribution of taxes, social programs. Those are things that I'm happy to debate. But black people having the right to exist, brown people having the right to exist, Muslims having the right to exist, that's not a debate point. That is a fact. They have the right to exist. And any counterpoint to that makes you guilty of wanting to commit crimes against humanity. At the very least, it's a violation of the 14th Amendment. At the very least, disparaging against the right of a minority demographic to exist is a violation of the 14th Amendment, which makes it a non-talking point. That is a non-starter. You are trying to debate the legality of ethnic cleansing, which is unequivocally illegal in the United States of America. The Treaty of Tripoli clearly states that the U.S. is not a Christian nation. There's another one. The reason why I forgot about the Treaty of Tripoli, Anna, was because I wasn't there when it was signed, but I remember that you were there, so thank you for bringing that up. And that was also during the time of the Founding Fathers. Hassan works on Twitch too. I have found some great streamers that way. Well, so what? I have to put hashtag Hassan in the title? Or in the... Like, where am I supposed to... Because in the tags, I put Hassan. Well, I put Hassanabi. Well, you know what? Maybe I should just do Hassan just to be safe. But, is that what you're talking about? Fun fact, Charlie Kirk said that Palestine doesn't exist. Right, so, like, that's not a debate point. Yeah, harboring marginalized people did exist. I mean, that's where Anne Frank's diary came from. Germans harboring Jewish people until they were caught. Hey, True Steel, welcome, welcome. Oh, so it was Hassanabi. All right, well, damn, bro. Keep making me change all this shit. Hassanabi. All right, done. And Schindler's List, exactly. Oh, okay, the Hassanabi does not appear on my phone. Damn it. If I have to change this tag one more fucking time, I'm gonna kick you from the stream. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I need the viewership, so. I'm hilarious. All right, it is 9 o'clock, and we have yet to even get to any of the real content in this thing. I just like exhausting the working class. So you are a fascist. I knew it. We did cover this one yesterday. We covered that. We did cover this, but Epstein is
they don't believe
worthwhile
how toxic
to cover
this is.
again.
If you're still using a plastic or wooden cutting board, you need to.
Haley Robson. She is one of the Epstein survivors who spoke out on Capitol Hill along with other Epstein survivors, pushing for the release of all the Epstein files. You saw her in our preamble speaking so passionately in front of Capitol Hill just last week. And Haley, I appreciate your time. And, you know, shouldn't get into how anybody voted, but in a world where this is an issue that should be apolitical and nonpartisan, I will just note for people, because you've been open about this, that you're a registered Republican and you voted for President Trump. So in that context, right, you're not coming with some political point of view against him, right? You're coming as a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein. And I want to give you a chance, Haley, to just explain how you feel when Trump today gets asked about the Epstein birthday book and he calls it a, quote, dead issue multiple times.
A dead issue to who, first of all? Your first mistake was assuming that you knew your voters. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake is now standing double down on what you said about it being a hoax. You know, I'm not coming with hostility. I'm not angry. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I am disgusted. I am not even coming from a place of anger. I'm just coming from a place of how can we move on when the leader of the free world keeps calling this a hoax when indeed it is not a hoax. And then it's just kind of this feeling of like you're...
That, honestly, I'm finding it hard to listen to this because it's like, you're an Epstein survivor, you voted for Trump, but you're on CNN talking about how you didn't know your voters? False. He knew his voters. He knew he was manipulating and taking advantage of them. You should have known better about Trump, given that you are a survivor and you're naming him. But also, that it's so conflicting. I mean, let's hear it. This is not what I was expecting. To be fair, I thought this was... If you had given me 100 guesses as to the direction that this interview would take, or if this person voted for Trump, at no point in time would I have been correct in any of those 100 guesses.
Throwing everything at the wall to let it stick, and now it's you're an FBI informant, and now you're not an FBI informant, it's back to being a hoax. It's very confusing, and... you know, it's appalling. I'm appalled. It gets worse and worse every day.
It is shocking. I mean, and I guess I know you're exhausted and reliving these things is not what you want to do, but you're choosing to do it to make sure that we get to the truth and we get to justice. So people understand. So the president understands. If he hears you, Haley, you were 16 years old when you explain how a classmate recruited you. You said basically, oh, there's an old guy, he wants a massage. A rich guy, $200. You give him a massage, you get $200. And Epstein then, you say, abused you, gave you an ultimatum that you had to bring a girl to him every day. And you spoke at the Capitol about how you ended up in that situation, a 16-year-old girl, where you...
Well, I don't want to... Quite frankly, hearing these stories makes me very ill. But I wanted to see what the first mistake thing was there. So I don't want to silence her, but we already know that Epstein and Trump and everybody involved with it manipulated these girls and forced them into doing these acts because of, A, their vulnerability of being children, but also because of their vulnerability being in the proximity of power. So I really don't think we need to litigate that. We never did get to this video after all these times, so let's Let's go ahead
the gray area
and
between hacker hunter
watch
is
this one now.
Not as gray as it used to be.
Imagine the government being able to break into your phone without you doing anything at all. You don't have to click a link or open a file. Just getting a text message can be enough. Once the spyware has infected your phone, they have access to everything: your messages, email, photos, real-time location, and even messages on encrypted apps. This new spyware uses what are called zero-click exploits, and it's a sprawling multi-million-dollar industry. Now, the US government is buying this exact type of tech. Welcome back to Free Speech Friday, my series covering the fight for free expression and civil liberties online. Just this week, it was announced that U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officials, aka ICE agents, will soon have access to one of the world's most sophisticated hacking tools, thanks to the Trump administration lifting a hold on a government review of a contract with Paragon Solutions, a company founded in Israel that makes spyware that can hack into any mobile phone, including any application, even encrypted apps. This new agreement between Paragon and ICE gives ICE access to the Israeli spyware's platform Graphite. Unlike old school wiretap programs, Graphite doesn't need to break the math behind encryption. Instead, Graphite infects a phone directly, and once it's inside, it can see your messages before they're scrambled into encryption, or right after they've been unscrambled to display on your screen. This means photos, texts, calls, literally everything, including the microphone on your phone, can be exposed. Paragon software turns every single personal cell phone into a surveillance gadget working against the person that owns it. Now, this ICE Paragon deal has had a very strange journey. The contract was initially signed.
How in the fuck is that legal? Like, that's the other thing that I'm constantly repeating. That's fascist, that's Nazi, and that's illegal. So what? I'm streaming right now. Oh, granted, I'm playing a game. Just to kind of focus, come back, focus, just distract. Like, notice how I have, like, the fidget spinner, the distraction, the food, the honey water, shiny lights. Like, I'm constantly in motion here because this isn't just a lackadaisical stream, right? We can't just sit here and just casually play Stardew fucking Valley. No. Unfortunately, we're talking about real fucking shit. Constantly. And it's infuriating. So anyway. We're streaming, and allegedly this Paragon can hear what I'm saying because of my phone now. Just sitting there being on. And I know also that the technology doesn't even require for your phone to be on. I know it's actually possible because the battery itself powers the hardware, and that can be accessed even if the software isn't running. So yeah. It's funny, but I'm sorry for all. Yeah, well, if it can infect our phones, it can infect your phones too. That's the point. All they have to do is send a text message to a number. You see what I'm saying? This could easily become the most intrusive espionage effort that the United States has ever undertaken against its own citizenry, but also potentially its own allies and adversaries as well.
In late 2024, but then it was quickly put on hold by the White House because the Biden administration had sort of made a show of limiting federal use of commercial spyware. In fact, in March 2023, President Biden signed an executive order called 14093 designed to restrict agencies from buying tools that pose national security risks or have been used to target dissidents, journalists, and U.S. personnel abroad. The contract with Paragon looked like an early test of whether they would basically be enforcing these rules or whether this was just another meaningless declaration for the government. So for almost a year, it's been sitting basically under review. Now, just this week, it's been announced that the pause was lifted quietly and the deal went live. ICE's cyber unit, Homeland Security Investigations, suddenly had access pretty much overnight to one of of the most powerful spyware systems on the entire planet. Now, Paragon is often compared to the NSO Group, the Israeli company behind Pegasus, which is the world's most famous spyware. Pegasus became really famous initially back in 2016, but then again in 2021 with the Pegasus Papers, when watchdog groups found the spyware on the phones of journalists, activists, and even heads of state. Like Pegasus, Paragon Group's
Jesus
graphite
Christ.
doesn't crack encryption on the wire. It compromises the phone itself, giving the person operating the spyware information to messages, calls, etc., everything on your phone, basically. So let's talk a little bit more about Paragon, because I think this is a company that not everybody has heard of, and it hasn't really been in the news as much. Like a lot of these spyware firms, Paragon has ties to Israel's defense industry. And just like
Of course it
NSO,
does.
its graphite spyware has already been detected in the wild, according to researchers at Citizen Lab, which is a very well-respected watchdog group. The University of Toronto actually published evidence just earlier this year linking Paragon spyware to real-world infections of the phones on journalists in Europe. Apple even sent threat notifications to some Paragon victims in April 2025, alerting them that they had been targeted
So,
with state-sponsored spyware.
This stuff
Paragon
is
suspended a
happening
contract
in
with
real
Italy
time
after-
this year. See, this is the shit. This is the fucking shit that I am talking about. Like, what happened in April, in June? When did she say that this got passed?
Like Pegasus, Paragon Group's graphite doesn't crack encryption on to Paragon because of the news defense industry. And just like NSO, its graphite spyware has already been detected in the wild.
Well, I don't know where in this 3 minutes she said, but, like, the Trump administration passed it in what, April, March, or something like that? Well, what was going on in April or March? It was Palestinian genocide. It was increasing the rhetoric of ICE. What else happened in April? I'm trying to think back. We were streaming, I think. It doesn't actually really... I mean, we could just Google what happened in America in April and be like, it could have been part of the big, beautiful... Like, it doesn't... That's not... Like, and it was quiet. So even if we were streaming, we might have missed it. But yeah, like, this is insane how absolutely intrusive this thing is. And every single one of our phones could be vulnerable right now. Could have already been infiltrated. I mean, we could sit here and watch the next 16 minutes of it and feel like trash. But we're going to move on from that. But we finally got it. Thank you, Taylor Lawrence, for doing outstanding work. Even if you do have some neoliberal tendencies, we'll take it. We'll take this. We'll take that.
If no one ever taught you how to manage your money, or you're secretly ashamed of where you're at financially.
Right. Take your free financial literacy course at dowjanes.com, where after you sign up for it and give them your email, your phone number, and your credit card, you'll be charged to gain access to the materials.
This is for you.
The White House is denying President Trump wrote a birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein more than 20 years ago. The birthday note was released yesterday by the House Oversight Committee, along with more records from the Epstein estate. Now, the message apparently bears the signature of President Trump and is typed with an outline of what appears to be a naked woman.
I am sick and
The note
tired
was
of
first
seeing
reported
this.
by the Wall Street Journal in July. At the time,
Use the right word. I said FBI informant. I'm not sure. I wasn't there. This is my lane. I'm just repeating what is common knowledge and has been out in the public for a long time. President Trump was never a hindrance to the Epstein investigation. He was trying to assist in that. He is disgusted.
CBS News.
Okay, so you're a congressman of the United States of America, and you said something with legal weight to it on behalf of the sitting president of the United States during an ongoing investigation of which Congress is a part of. And you want to say, oh, I didn't know any better, it wasn't my fucking lane? Isn't Mike Johnson a lawyer? Like, aren't all of these motherfuckers lawyers or financiers? Like, are you fucking serious right now? Are you fucking serious right now? Oopsie. I just called for the eradication of an entire demographic. I didn't know that that was against the law. I was just trying to be cheeky. I'm calling Donald Trump a pedophile. I didn't realize I could be given a cease and desist by the President of the United States for slandering him publicly, even though the investigation will likely exonerate me in the end. Like, actions have consequences, you dumb motherfucker. And you're in a position where you need to know. If you don't know, then you need to know. Let's be very clear. I, Samuel Ronan, am going to run for Congress as a Republican this year for the 2026 election. When I win, and I will fucking win because we are ending up the presidency here. When I win my congressional race, it would behoove me to learn about parliamentarian processes in Congress, because when I am in Congress, I will need to invoke those processes to stick my middle finger as far into the face of every single one of those pieces of shit as I can, while having a leg to stand on. And if I don't, and I try and be brazen, that could easily backfire. So, like, I don't know. That's not my lane. As a U.S. congressman, unfucking believable. Thank you for the follow, Lion. Welcome to the stream. Hope you like it here. You've caught me in the middle of an unhinged rant, but
Correspondent Natalie Brand joins us from the White House with more on all of this. Good morning, Natalie. Explain this walkback from Johnson and the letter.
Yeah,
that was
please explain this.
Morning, Errol. Well, Speaker Johnson, you heard him. He acknowledged that maybe he used the wrong word, but he was referencing comments that were made by the attorney for the victims that we heard from last week over on Capitol Hill, saying that, you know, years ago, President Trump, when he was not a politician, was helping in this investigation. Now, Speaker Johnson, calling him an FBI informant, acknowledged that that maybe was not the correct terminology, but trying to make the case that he was not hurting this investigation that launched years ago. Now, as for this new document released late yesterday by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, the top Democrat on the committee saying that he wants President Trump to tell what he knows about the case and release all Epstein files, something that a number of both Republicans and Democrats have been calling for. But again, now that this document is in the public domain, pretty much aligning with what the Wall Street Journal had reported weeks ago.
Okay, so that was, I guess, all the more that we were going to get about that. What a fucking fool. And he's the speaker. Now, something worthy of note. Mike Johnson is the speaker. He will be the speaker until the next Congress is sworn in January of 2027. At some point later after that, I think it's between 30 and 90 days, there's a new election for Speaker of the House. I don't know if it's immediate. I'm fairly certain it's like several months after the new Congress has been sworn in. If Speaker Johnson remains Speaker Johnson, I cannot express how much joy it will bring to my cold black heart to destroy him on national television on every single one of his talking points and use the parliamentarian process against him. This is the same motherfucker who tried to expel female congresswomen for not wearing skirts. This sexist fuck. Oh my God. I cannot wait to curb stomp him. Metaphorically in Congress. I don't know. I obviously won't be wearing my military uniform when I do it, but This motherfucker is such a stickler for decorum. I'm tempted to just go in there in like sweatpants and a sweatshirt and just brazenly incite this mother, antagonize him. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I digress. We should make you a mod because you were on it like white on rice. Oh, did I give wait, I thought I gave I like to Kalot. Why to talk? Wow. I'm sorry, guys. Between the flamen and the red lettering, anyway, I'm sorry. Do you think that the Democrats will get banned? I think there's a significant chance of that happening, actually. For one, I'm fairly certain that we are going to have our elections canceled in America, or if not canceled, they are going to be heavily influenced by having ICE, military, and or law enforcement stationed at every single polling place to intimidate voters. So that is going to deter a lot of left-leaning voters in the first place, which will drive a lot of conservatives to being able to push their agenda at the polls, which is one of the reasons why I will be running as a Republican. Not because any of my ideology or platform is technically conservative, unless you go back to Eisenhower, but because I think the manipulation of this administration is going to do everything in its power to make sure that Republicans have a significant advantage in the upcoming elections. I think that is what's going to happen. And after that, what remaining Democrats may exist will be so minimal and minuscule that it'll end up causing the party to diminish even further and its influence to diminish into nothingness, to not even be able to influence left-wing groups or organizations anymore. They can try, but they will definitely try to silence all of the MAGA ops, which Anna and our full shared brain cell. Maybe in 10 years when I can grow a full beard like Sam. I can't even grow a full beard. What are you talking about? This is patchy as fuck. At least no Charlie. Oh my God. Sam did not read chat for a long time. But for real though, Sam has more beard growth than me. Well, that's true. I have been improving here lately. Why Republican? For the aforementioned reasons that this administration is going to rig elections, and my district that I'm living in is heavily gerrymandered in favor of Republicans. So it's political expediency. Fuck Kamala. I don't even know why you put this on the stream. Did you really think I was going to click on this video, Anna? Why would you? No. Fuck Kamala Harris. Fuck that bitch. She's not getting a platform on my stream. Failure. Shame on you, your cow, your family, and your dragon.
This was taken October 30th of 2024. This video is of an MQ-9 drone tracking an orb, or this object, off the coast of Yemen. Another MQ-9 launched a Hellfire missile, and I'm not going to explain it to you. You'll see exactly what it does. So you can still see it traveling.
Wow, that was fucking...
How long before I see results
what?
of Tai Chi?
Day 3, you'll feel your energy.
I don't want to
Day
see this
7,
half-naked
your eyes will
Asian
change.
man.
A brand new poll.
This was taken October 30th of 2024. This video is of an MQ-9 drone tracking an orb, or this object, off the coast of Yemen. Another MQ-9 launched a Hellfire missile, and
So this orb is just cruising down the coast of Yemen, gets hit by a Hellfire missile, which doesn't even explode, the Hellfire missile, which the Hellfire missile, if I'm not mistaken, is an impact ballistics weapon, which means it impacted and didn't explode. And then immediately this, whatever it is, set off 3 smaller things that immediately trailed after it while at speed and just continued moving on like nothing had happened. Let me tell you what does not exist on Earth within any military arsenal on planet Earth. Because if it did, if that was a man-made object, if that was a man-made weapon that could just shrug off a Hellfire missile and then create 3 smaller aerial units in its wake, that would be the only thing being used in warfare right now. The reason why drones are being used in warfare is because they are expendable air support. They're air weaponry. And they can carry just enough munitions to do significant damage. But typically, they have to be cabled to be as effective, or they can be remotely operated but then be slightly less effective, and depending on their scale, can only have so many missiles and rifles and ammunition attached to them. So, like, if we had the capacity to send this object into the battlefield and it can detach into smaller things, we would be using that shit exclusively. So no. UFO confirmed. Like, because that technology does not exist on Earth. She almost won the election. Shut up, political. Saw this on social media. Boebert explains why she wasn't satisfied with a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk in the House and wanted a prayer said out loud on the floor. I believe that silent prayers get silent results. God made us speaking beings so we can speak what we believe and manifest that. Well, to be fair, Charlie Kirk spoke out loud that he didn't believe empathy existed. So, or that empathy weakens a nation. So technically, Boebert is violating Charlie's memory by trying to invoke sympathy. I don't give a shit. I'm not watching that video. It's just like when I skip Trump. Every time that motherfucker opens his mouth, I skip right past it. I'm not giving that man a platform. Do you think that Israel bombed the flotilla to Palestine or America? Ooh. That's a good question. I'm still leaning towards Israel, though, because I don't think America would have not sank one of those ships. America brazenly sunk a boat without verifying if they were civilians or not, and then shot another missile to cover it up. If America did it, they would have shot the flotilla and then covered it up. Israel dropping a warning fire bomb thing, I think, is meant to be a deterrent. AI drone attacks. I will not die by AI. Malcolm X once said, chicken always come back to roost. Ain't never made him sad. Always glad. Pretty much Kirk got what he got put out. I mean... So Stephen King said, Charlie Kirk said, stone gay people. Angela Bellissimo asked Grok if Charlie ever said that, and Grok says no. Charlie Kirk did not explicitly advocate stoning gay people in modern society. He quoted Leviticus prescribing death for homosexuality as God's perfect law on sexual matters. Yeah, well, point being, it's irrelevant. It's largely irrelevant because he advocated for so much other heinous shit, like nickel and diming what were his exact words and how he... Like, that's giving platform to the fascist talking point. He's dead because he was a monster. His monstrous rhetoric is what got him killed. And he should be condemned for it. That's the only thing that should be talked about. Not the nuance and minutia of what he said. Now, is there another video on the UFO? Is that what you were saying? Or there was another video about Kamala? Because fuck Kamala. What? Let's see. Oh yeah, let's do the Bolsonaro thing. We skipped that last
We pretty much take it all. Fridges and dishwashers, couches, mattresses, same day notice or 3 weeks in advance.
It's good to know you're like...
You know that meme with Homer Simpson doing this? And it says, this is how I pronounce the F and fuck that. Meme that shit. Fuck Kamala Harris.
em relação a Jair Messias Bolsonaro.
It wasn't a surprise, but
You shut your mouth, apolitical. You shut your mouth. Don't try and use my lady love against me, Francesca.
Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes' 5-hour presentation for a guilty verdict against former President Jair Bolsonaro took the form of a true crime
You guys
series
are gaslighting
with the
me
same
right now.
drama.
That's not very
Bolsonaro, he
nice.
said, had attempted to remain in power at any cost.
O Brasil
Brazil almost returned to a state of dictatorship because a group of politicians and their allies, a criminal organization led by Jair Bolsonaro, couldn't stand to lose an election. The evidence leaves no room for doubt that all defendants were aligned with the leader, Jair Bolsonaro.
In all, Bolsonaro and 7 co-defendants are charged with 5 counts of crimes against democracy, including
There's such thing as a crime against democracy? Hold the front door, people. Hold the front door. Crimes against democracy? I have never heard that phrase coined. I have been in politics since 2013. I have never heard the phrase crime against democracy. That's awesome. Now, we don't even need to charge. Well, we will. I'm just saying, but we don't have to figure out ways in which these criminal motherfuckers, these fascist scum, actually committed war crimes or crimes against humanity, because fundamentally, their actions were crimes against democracy. Huh. Ah! Ah! Yes! Crimes against democracy. That is what we will charge this regime and every motherfucker promoting and spreading their lies, their misinformation, the fascist propaganda of the alt-right, the neo-Nazis, the fucking incels, all of this anti-racism, like the anti-black, anti-immigrant movement. Let's go! Crimes against democracy. Aderoids, thank you for the follow. Of all the times to get a follow, right when I actually lost my fucking mind. Crashing out, that was the word I was looking for. Bruh. So, I'm not the only one that has never heard of that. Because everybody in chat hasn't heard of that before either, right? So, crime against democracy. Let's go! Alright. I, Samuel Ronan, candidate for U.S. House District 15 in Ohio for the House of Representatives, do solemnly swear, pledge, and affirm that upon my official acceptance into the House of Congress in the inauguration date of 2027, I think it's January 21st, I pledge and declare that I will submit legislation to codify into law a definition to put into federal law crime against democracy, and I vow to fight for this with every fiber of my being. I will learn every single parliamentary trick under the sun, join whatever committee I must to ensure that gets passed, so that when I, Samuel Ronan, become president of the United States, I can use that legislation that I passed as a congressman to unilaterally charge, indict, prosecute, and then sentence every single Democrat, Republican, officer, soldier, agent, and donor that have perpetuated these fascist rhetorics, these fascist agendas, undermining the 14th Amendment, undermining the Constitution, ignoring due process. I will charge each and every single one of these motherfuckers with crimes against democracy, which will be capital punishment. And I will rejoice. I will create a fucking holiday, a week, a month, a year, however long it must take to execute each and every single one of these sociopathic motherfuckers who have tried to undermine these United States and our Constitution and our laws. With that is fucking beautiful. Absolutely fucking beautiful. New word phrase unlocked. I will put that in my inventory for you. Please, everybody. Hashtag crime against democracy Ronan 2026. Let's fucking go! I need to watch this week's episode of Peacemaker, but it isn't out yet. Fair enough. No websites have it. Oh, I'm sorry. Simply Steve, thank you for the follow. I apologize. I was crashing out again. Can we bring that judge to the US? Like, we are honestly like what do you call that? A honorary judge of the United States within the United States justice system. The way law works is that you can't punish them for a crime that happened before the law was made for it to be a crime. That's not true. There are laws that implement retroactive accountability, especially with statute of limitations. A lot of states finally passed new laws extending the statute of limitations, which retroactively allows prosecution of criminals who committed those crimes up to and including the newer statute of limitations. Obama and Bush can still get it. Oh, they can absolutely get it because they committed the war crimes while they were still war crimes. 44 school shootings in 2025, the latest being in Colorado yesterday. 19 kids killed, 43 others wounded just this year. No half masks for them. No tweet out for Trump, no Air Force 2 flight for them, just thoughts and prayers. Exactly. We have undergone so much tragedy and so much atrocity, and Charlie Kirk was one of the few who said that those deaths of those children is necessary to justify the Second Amendment. So no, thank you, Simply Steve, for bringing that up. Any death whatsoever due to gun violence is one death too many. But the death of the children should have been the exact moment where change was implemented unilaterally and without reservation. It has been a failure of society ever since Columbine, or prior to, that we have not regulated guns further and implemented wider access to healthcare, mental health care specifically. Like a Confederate statue, Anna Luna says, put a Charlie Kirk statue in the Capitol. That's insane. Why the fuck would we commemorate that piece of shit? I hate that her name, Anna Luna, sounds like your name. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'll take credit for all the new viewers with the Hasanabi hashtag. I think so too. Honestly, because as soon as I changed it, we did get more viewers. So, good call on that, Apolitical. Give this man a mod. How will you make that happen to kill all of them when they're in power just like you? Well, once you're charged with that crime, I would then have the power to arrest them using the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, and any other policing organization to do so. I mean, I'm not going to spill all the tea because, 4 years from now, I don't want them to know my plans. But as the president, I would be able to issue those arrest warrants through the Department of Justice. And how will I kill all of them? With guillotines. One guillotine can cut a lot of heads. Just saying. Bush also stole the 2000 election, and Obama interfered in the 2016 and 20 primaries. Crimes against democracy. Yes! But they wouldn't want it to be a crime, so how will you make it one? So how do I get this legislation pushed through? That's the question that you're asking me. The answer is very simple. Brazen charisma. Now, you're going to say, well, that's a stupid fucking answer. So, realistically, these sycophants care about one thing, their donors and their positions of power. What we lack right now is an opposition power. We lack the party, a leader, any of it. There is no opposition power in America. Once I get elected into Congress, and leading up to that election of when I become a congressman, I will be establishing myself as that leader of opposition. And because I would be a Republican, the Democrats, Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Zoran, would not associate with me in the slightest, which means I can fill the void. And I will fill the void. And I will start to pull the stranglehold that MAGA has over the conservatives, and I will start establishing it under my banner. Now, I immediately forgot what our 4-letter word acronym was, but we have a better acronym. I just don't remember it off the top of my head, and that's what we're going to use and call it that movement. Ronan is the right way is going to be the movement that pushes the right to, at the very least, the center, if not all the way to the left. And that's when we can start influencing these politicians, because they will follow the winds of change. Now, I know that sounds grandiose and that has a lot of buts, ifs, and maybes in it. However, that is effectively how change happens, right? It took MAGA almost a decade to achieve Project 2025. So I'm going to have to achieve that legislation in a matter of 2 years. A year and a half. And so that is what I will do. Am I really going to run? Yes, that is exactly what is going to happen. This stream is actually meant to help facilitate the interaction with my constituency. And the social media platforms are supposed to drive to this stream so that my constituency kind of knows who I am. Also to promote the campaign and my ideology. Guillotines 2028. I do need mad money, but my investments are finally going up instead of down, so that there might be a chance. Sam is running for Congress in 26 and the White House in 28. Ronanism. That's what we're going to do. Exactly. And Simply Steve, I don't know if you realize how true your statement was. I ran for the DNC chair in 2017, and I fundamentally changed the entire direction of that campaign for every other candidate. So much so that they have never had a publicly open election for the DNC ever again, ever since. It has always been closed-doored and selected. So you are not wrong in the slightest that I am an extremely dangerous person to the political elite in this country. How are you going to convince these hillbilly conservatives to vote for a communist? By calling it Ronanism, not communism. Rafa, rebuilding America for Americans. That's right. See, Anna, this is why I need you on the team. This is why you are the backbone, the foundation of the campaign. I might be the white man with the gun and the military background, the rhetoric and the chutzpah to say the things that need to be said, but I'll be damned if you're not the brains of this fucking outfit. No woman hot enough, no mountain of gold high enough. That's right. You're going to try and honeypot me? Good luck. I'll sleep with her and still fuck you over and not vote for your bullshit. Because I am a man. Samuel won't sell out. You can tell that very fast, even if you disagree with him. I've known Sam for 8 years and can never be bought. Sam scared the shit out of the DNC. Sam is incorruptible. Well, I would like to think I'm incorruptible. I'm just saying, if I ever do become corrupted, you are more than welcome. You are more than welcome to do what you gotta do about it. That's all I'm saying. If you ever get really prominent in politics, I'll make mad money selling clips of you to the opponents. Well, it's kind of funny because there is no such thing as bad publicity in politics, right? Because if that were the case, Trump would have never gotten elected in the first place, right? So the more of my face and my nonsense that the world sees, including crimes against democracy, the better. How much do we pay you for your silence? We'll give him a moderation role in the stream. That'll give him his silence. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to learn how to scream without using my vocal cords, because that fucked me up. I'm not gonna lie, fam. Alright. True. I'm not talking about grabbing women by the pussy. What I am saying is if those damn Democrats and Republicans think they can buy me with a hot piece of ass and a tight, warm pussy, they're sadly mistaken. Because I will tear that pussy right up through them, deliver it right back to their doorstep, look them dead in their goddamn eyes and say, guess what, motherfucker? You done fucked up because you just gave me a wild night and I am fully ready and energized to ruin yo motherfucking day. Click, clack, motherfucker. Because everything's consensual. 70 million kiss my asses. Honestly, one of the things that I really hope happens is that one of these big corporations donates to me and then like makes a big article about how I accept big money after all and that I'm a hypocrite and this, that, and the other. And I find out about it through the article because I'm not going to be paying attention to the finances. That's for somebody else to do. But then I find out $7 million check from like the military industrial complex. And it's like, oh shit, we got $7 million from the MIC? Huh. All right. We have $7 million to spend on canvassing. We have $7 million to spend on Get Out the Vote. We have $7 million to promote peace, clean energy, universal housing, healthcare, education. We just got $7 million to give shirts and build a better Twitch platform stream. We have $7 million to advertise our campaign and admonish the military industrial complex. Let's go. I will spend their money directly in a way that negatively impacts them. So, like, good luck. Like, seriously, good luck trying to sabotage me and my campaign. Good luck. Good luck doing it with a honeypot. Good luck doing it with money. Good luck doing it with bribes. Good luck trying to make me come to some sort of devil's agreement. No. I have quit six-figure jobs. I have told managers and CEOs to their face that they were lying, scum-sucking scum. That they were wrong. And then proved them wrong. I, as a barely 1 year enlisted member of the United States Air Force, openly and brazenly mocked a brigadier general at a annual awards banquet. Do you think I give a I told the DNC voters who were sitting in the front of the audience to their faces that if they really wanted to espouse democratic ideology, they should expand the vote for DNC chair and the other executive spaces to the Democratic electorate. I told Tom Perez to his fucking face he was stealing my platform in real time and had the receipts. I talked about speaking truth to power on national television. I called out the corruption of the Democratic Party when they tried asking me a gotcha question. Do you honestly think I even have the capacity, the ability to capitulate and sell myself out and bend my ideology? I'm too brazen to even realize when I am burning down bridges. You think I'm going to pay attention to the little dangle in front of me? Like, okay, thank you. You just gave me what I needed to make you look like a bigger idiot. Thank you? Like, Alright, sorry. Chat's going crazy here. Go to the next video, please. It's super dry here. My bad. They tried to bribe you and you didn't honor the bribe. Also true. And Anna can be a pit bull. That's true. Anna can attest to the fact that I don't give no fucks, which is true. Be smart when to be silent, maybe. Yeah, but there's no time to be silent in politics. There's always a time to be loud. Bridges? What bridges? Not in America, because we don't have bridges in America. Because they're all crumbling, because we don't invest in our infrastructure. Alright. What would be a good video to end the stream on? We didn't even cover the videos that covered Charlie Kirk. That's funny. Oh, we could finally do Mexican repatriation. Oh, wait. UFO hearing? Yep, that's the winner.
They've taken this video down 3 times because it teaches you how to hit lottery tickets.
Yeah, probably it's
every week.
because nobody
Watch
gives a shit,
now.
motherfucker.
That's a chilling thing. I mean, we were a couple of seconds away from World War III starting, and the UFOs were responsible for it. There was an incident in October of 1982 over an ICBM base where UFOs...
Do you remember back in 1982 when the UFOs were over an ICBM base? You were definitely an adult back then.
Popped up, was observed over this base where the missiles are pointed at us, United States. These UFOs perform incredible maneuvers. They split apart, they fuse back together, they'd appear and disappear, and right at the end of this 4-hour period, the launch control codes for the ICBMs lit up. Something entered the correct codes, the missiles were fired up and ready to launch, and they could not shut it down.
You were not 6 in 1982. Don't even fucking lie. You've been around since, like, 1982 BC. Like,
Russian officers were panicking. The UFOs they disappeared. The launch control system goes back to normal. Colonel Sokolov and his team came in, took the thing apart, could not figure out what it was. It wasn't a power surge or EMPs or some of the baloney excuses that are...
Actually, I do remember watching this on, like, the UFO thing on, like, the alien conspiracy things in Netflix. That was one of the big ones, that the Russian ICBM nuclear base or whatever went haywire for a minute there, and it was, and on all the videos that show you that they showed that this UFO craft was like bouncing around and just causing some sort of interference, and then when it left, it stopped the interference.
Our country has given for similar events involving our nuclear missiles. They thought it was a message from wherever the UFOs were from, and
so, I love alien conspiracy theories, and we need to bring back Conspiracy Theory Fridays, but it's going to take time for that to go. Right, she was at the history. I'm young. I'm just 35 years old, but there is growing theory that like the UFOs that do interact with like nuclear weapons or going to specific sites on Earth, that their pulsing patterns and their movement patterns are an attempt to communicate in some sort of universal matter, right? When we talk about science fiction and communicating with an alien species, we always try and make it out to be things like pi, or the Fibonacci sequence, or other mathematical concepts, or trying to figure out a way to promote our alphabet or our numbering system or whatever else. But evidently that's not the case with actual alien intelligence, because they are doing completely different movements than what we can discern, right? Because if they were doing flash, 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 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then they went back to 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10, right? And then started doing like flash, 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 flash to show 31, right? It's not like they're communicating like that. They're not doing what we think an intelligent species would do in order to communicate with us, which means we are definitely nowhere close to being advanced enough to be going out there in the first place, because either A, we haven't discovered whatever concept these spacefaring races have already discovered, and that therefore that is the baseline for what a spacefaring race should be able to know, right? Just like an intelligent society should be able to know pi and base 10, right? Because all ancient societies had the concept of the circle and the concept of measurement. Hence why they were able to build cities and roads, right? So that's the basis for civilization. Some other concept must be the basis for space travel. And I think once we figure that out, we'll be ready to do it. However, we have to stop murdering each other and threatening World War III to get there. And quite frankly, 4 years until I can get sworn in as president still requires me to have another 24 hours to implement my fucking agenda to prevent that nonsense. So, like, there's a lot of work cut out for us. Definitely a lot of work that is cut out for us in my future administration to prevent all of this bad shit that's currently happening from escalating further, assuming it hasn't already escalated by the time I take office. All right. Yeah, I guess that kind of takes us to the end of our stream. So, let's do that then. Okay, we'll end it here. First and foremost, there have been several new followers joining us on the stream, and I would like to once again thank you and welcome you to the stream. We stream Tuesdays through Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. On Tuesdays, we talk about domestic affairs. On Wednesdays, we talk about foreign affairs. And Thursdays, we talk about, well, a mix, right? And sometimes we have enough time to talk about alien conspiracy theories. We are planning in the future to expand the amount of days that we stream to include Friday and Saturday. So, to be determined what those days will be about, but we will continue to stick to the 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Time stream. With that being said, you can also find us on YouTube and Facebook. I believe if you go to if you click on my name, it takes you there and those 5 links. So we are actively recruiting people to support the campaign, be on the campaign, participate in the streams, promote the streams, the whole 9 yards. So please like, share, subscribe. Like, not the money part, but you know what I mean. Subscribe to YouTube and all that. So glad to have you. Hope to see you again next week. Hope you enjoyed my several crash outs. That is what you can expect here. Me crashing out and me talking about politics the way it needs to be talked about, with a little bit of panache thrown in there as well. So, with that being said, y'all have a great rest of your night. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. And see you again Tuesday. This is your President Samuel Ronan, out.